Let's get the meeting started, please. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
for the United States of America,
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Should we start out by making a motion to let Lisa in on Zoom, or how do you want to do that?
Yes, sir. As part of the roll call, we should indicate that all members of the board are here today. Ms. Hanson by phone. I do have the affidavits of notice of both the public hearing for the final adoption of the 2026 budget and the regular meeting. And with that, you can entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the finding that Ms. Hanson's attendance telephonically is necessary due to extraordinary circumstances.
Can we do that all under one motion?
Yes,
sir. Two?
One's fine.
Okay, let's make one motion that we're going to allow Lisa to participate in the meeting under Zoom conditions and approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
With that, then, the public hearing was advertised to be first this morning, so the balance of the meeting, the public will be given an opportunity to talk during the final adoption. So this two-part process. We'll open the public hearing. I'll provide the review. The chairman has some suggested changes to the budget since your last meeting. I'll highlight those. He can elaborate as he sees fit. Then we'll entertain comments from the public. So, as you know, this year's general fund budget, while there were some minor changes to the prior year, the overall revenue picture remained the same. There was no proposed increase in assessments over the current year. Total budget is $983,855 in the general fund. Of that amount, $878,355 are from non-ad valorem assessments. There's some additional revenues, both interest earnings and some miscellaneous revenues and interest on your money from the tax collector that get us to the total amount that is there. That's the same amount and the same assessment, $777.23. As in the current year, the board had increased the assessment in the year prior to that, primarily to establish a contribution to the capital reserve. And we went from $400+ to the $777. The chairman wants to talk about the possibility of some minor adjustments now that we're 1 year in. And they are both in the capital contribution. He still likes the idea. He would like the capital contribution to be $400,000 next year. That would be a reduction of $23,000 to $50,000. He also is suggesting a reduction, given a current lack of projects in the capital outlay for landscape improvements. Was budgeted at $50,000. The suggestion is to keep $25,000 in there. And then he has also questioned whether or not the board wants to fund supplemental mosquito treatment call center next year. The original budget had $15,000. The suggestion is perhaps to go to zero and deal with that separately from your contingency fund if it becomes a problem next year. Those cuts would be $63,250, and the adjusted assessment would be $815,105. That is a reduction of about $54 or 7.5% of reduction in the assessment.
The O&M assessment.
On the O&M assessment for the general fund. Very quickly, on the utility side.
So basically, we're proposing to drop O&M assessments by 7%.
7.5.
7.5, which is down to what, 721?
Would be 721.26.
Yeah. So part of that is we had, we came in under budget, a lot of things, plus all this, the easy things that we could get rid of to try to get our O&M assessments down. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And then quickly, again, we've workshopped this budget once, and we've discussed the utility side on now 3 separate workshop occasions. The utility fund budget next year is increasing. The total budget is $1,568,800. There are no non-ad valorem assessments next year because you've spent most of this year talking about going to a metered rate basis approach. Those rates are scheduled to be adopted by the board at your meeting next month. So there's no assessment revenue in here. We have adjusted the metered rate revenue for both water, wastewater, and irrigation to the new rates that will be or proposed to be effective on October the 1st. And the primary reason for the increase here is on the irrigation side. Since this budget was approved, the board had suggested a minor tweak to irrigation rates to have a flat tier per 1,000 gallons consumed as opposed to the sort of punitive tiered rate where the more you water, the more it costs as you get into the higher gallonages that are there. Otherwise, these budgets were prepared and generally our expenses for both commodities and contract services and other costs are roughly 3% on the cost of living side for our basic maintenance expenses that we have.
Do you remember what our utility ad valorem assessment was last year, the amount? Per your
Like
seat?
$1,100.
Was it around 1,100?
Yeah, they go 1404.89.
Okay, so we're shifting this $1,404 or $5 off of the ad valorem, and that's what we're going to try to make up with the water bills. So when you think about your water bills right here now, you're what, $125 a month, basically, that you're not going to pay in advance with ad valorem taxes. Now, I saw where someone was saying that that you're not going to get your 4% discount for paying early and all that. Well, you're going to get much more than that because you're not going to be spending your $1,400 up front. You're going to pay for that as you go. So your savings on that, on your $1,400 is even more.
Something, Neil, don't we pay that discount anyway? Because the county takes the discount off.
The tax collector and the property appraiser are fee officers under the Constitution. And so we're paying the equivalent of almost a little more than 3% comes off the top of every dollar that the tax collector receives, and the property appraiser's a slightly reduced amount for the work that he does. And so that kind of ends up being a wash.
I mean, yeah, the discount you get for paying early though,
Yeah.
comes out of our revenues.
Yes.
So that's what I was going to explain. You think that the county's paying that for us? When you get your discount, if you pay early, it comes out of our pocket anyway. All right, so in our pocket is filled by your money. So it just it's just a circle. You know, you think you're going to lose your discount, but in fact you're not, because it won't cost us the discount. We won't have to charge that back in bills. So it really is a wash. Does that make sense? The discount isn't a discount. It seems like it is, but it really isn't because we pay it anyway.
With that, I think I'll stop and Mr. Chairman, I sort of reviewed those 3 suggested changes that would give us about a 7.5% decrease over the current year's rate. And then if there are other questions, happy to answer those. If not, let's see if there's any public comment.
Okay. Yeah, it was brought to my attention that there's a couple of issues with this. I don't know. Steve, you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, I can sign that one.
Yeah, he told me he had some questions or he wants some clarification. So Steve, come on up.
Okay, yeah, we're ready now. So, I just apologize, I probably should have done this at the budget workshops, but when this is in the packet, I went through it and I found a number of errors in the spreadsheets, I think which are errors, and then I had a few questions. So I'll try to roll through these quickly to get you guys through it. We'll start, if you want, on the first one, the general fund.
Yep.
The 25-26 variance column is calculated incorrectly from what I see. I think what you're doing is you're comparing the 2026 to the 2024. If you look at the numbers there, so it's kind of, you can't really understand it because the numbers are all off on that. So if you can fix that, that'd be great. It looks like a formula problem.
I think you're right.
There,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, this is stuff we want to get cleaned up so we have good documents. I hope you find this helpful.
Yep.
Okay,
We've
so
done it
that's the first one.
two ways in the past. We have compared both the year-end forecast as well as the prior year adopted. I've already made that note with a couple of other ones, but anything else on that protected logic?
On that particular sheet, I only had one question, which is, if you look down under administrative, probably the fourth from the bottom, other contractual services, that's gone up quite a bit. Obviously, I think you're just matching what actuals were in 2025. What are those other contractual services?
They include both the cost to video and Zoom these meetings, as well as transcription fees to produce the minutes that are pretty modest, actually, but we do incur costs for Zoom.
15,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for the clarification on that. I'll try to move quickly. Number 3, you already addressed about the mosquito treatment on page 2. And you're not striking that. I didn't understand why we do that when I didn't know it. And then if you look in the capital expenditure section right below that, it shows outlay landscape. You budgeted 100,000 and in 2025, and it shows a negative 50,000. That should be a positive 50,000.
Yeah, again, that's part of that
Just-
logic.
Just more cleanup in the pages there. Let's get past that. Going on to the next page, which is the water and sewer, first one. The one that was posted said fiscal year 2025 budget.
That's already been
2026.
changed.
Great. And then the column of the variances is 25 to 20.
Same.
Okay, that's been fixed. Great. Super. And then in revenues, you have negative numbers for your increase in revenues. That's incorrect, I believe. If you look in the variance column, it shows, let's say for water revenue, you show a negative,
Again, I think what happened was the logic was the prior year's logic. It was focused on the year-end forecast, and we elected not to do that this year. But
it just should be corrected so
He's
it
done
makes sense. And so the next one is, I see that the irrigation fees are going from 150,000 to 210,000. That's a 25% increase. We pay a quarter of that $150,000, so that's pretty important to me to understand why that's going up.
That's actually could require a budget amendment. When we initially adopted these in May, it was based off of utilization. We've had a big year. People have watered like heck down here under the current rate structure, and the suggestion is just to go to a flat base rate regardless of how much water you use next year, and so that number is going to have to be adjusted by a budget amendment once we get into and have some history with the new rates.
Okay,
Wait.
If we're seeing a 25% increase in irrigation water, I need to know that because I got a budget for that in
We raised-
2026.
Well, I think it's gonna cost you money on the first step, okay? So the irrigation used to have phases, right? The more water you use, the more expensive it got.
I understand.
Now the irrigation is gonna be one set rate, a flat rate. So on the early ones, it'll cost you a little bit more, but as you go up your steps that were in last year, it will cost you less.
I'm just trying to figure out how to budget for it.
All right.
The other thing about this, Steve, too, is we're taking our best guesses on all this stuff, and we can adjust this on the fly. If it looks like, we're bringing in way more money than we need for irrigation, we can change that. But we had to start somewhere.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Have you guys run like scenarios? You look at someone's current bill, what they paid on ad valorem, and then look at what, the new things. Let's say, what is a typical house pay? What is a full
I got it.
resident? What is
He
it?
did.
Seems like that might be
You did?
useful.
You read read the full utility rate study that is on the website,
Okay.
because he talks about meter equivalency, and he also talks about essentially the new base rate will cover the amount previously collected through non-ad valorem assessments. And then the metered approach will drive. But to your main question, year-to-date irrigation revenues are $170,000 through the first 3 quarters, so I've got 3 more months to go. The original budget forecast for irrigation water for the entire year was 155, which was essentially 5,000 more than the prior year, 24. So
We had a dry year.
at the track, we had a very dry spring. We
Yeah,
had
that's what I'm
very
saying.
dry-
I know we watered longer than we typically do. just
In fact,
because
I'm watering at my house. It hadn't rained at my house in almost 10 days. And so that could very well be 200,000 or 225,000 when we get to the end of the year. So this has been a banner year for irrigation revenues.
Okay, great. Hopefully, okay, so that, it doesn't sound like that, you're not adding a base rate on the commercial irrigation accounts, are you?
Yeah, the base rate is tied to meter size, equivalency, or actual units attached to that meter as a result of another request that was made last month.
So I just want to make sure that our irrigation meters that are irrigation water only are not going to be getting this big, huge increase.
I think you're going to be okay for the reason that I said.
Okay.
Because the proposed rates went from, like, I'm just going to say $1 per thousand for the first 1,000 up to $4 per 1,000 beyond whatever the threshold amount was. And all of that has been changed. It's going to be, $1 per 1,000 regardless of the number that you use.
See, I think multifamily is gonna see that revenue, you're gonna see it balance out more than like a single family house. Only because multifamily all goes under 1 meter.
Yeah.
And we used to go way deep into the steps and pay a lot of money for that extra water. At a flat rate, it'll balance out more because we go way deeper,
Yeah, and I get it for the potable water. I'm just trying to understand what's changing as far as irrigation water, because that's a big expense for us.
We're going to have to monitor that because there is no longer an incentive to conserve.
Plus,
Well, and then
we
like
can
we
start,
have
we can start out high in our budget, and we can't raise that,
Yeah.
but we can lower it. That's part of the reason for that.
Anything else?
Yeah. No, the other comment would be, we've had problems where, let's say, a line breaks and we get all this water
Yeah.
flushed through it. We should probably come to you guys and ask for forgiveness, but we haven't, we just paid the bill.
There's a
Real quickly,
mechanism
there's
in
two
policy.
other things that I wanted to touch on that you guys haven't. On page 2 of the water and sewer fund, there's miscellaneous bank charges of 32,000. They weren't budgeted in 2025, but they're 32,000 actuals in 2025. They're matching that in 2026. This is the third item on the top block on the second page. See what I'm talking about?
Yep.
What's that?
Honestly, I'll need to check that. We're not paying fees.
Okay, just curious. Kind of jumped at it.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the uni, I guess it's a uni building thing. You budgeted 3,000, it looks like your actual is 40,000, so that's a $37,000.
We talked about that 2 months ago. That was a transposition error in the final budget. The board authorized the
Should
budget
have been 30,000.
33,000, and you'll see that in next month's financials. I think the board approved that 2 months ago.
Great, thank you.
Any other public comment?
Thanks for that, Steve. Appreciate it. Looks like you spent a bunch of time on that.
Couple hours.
If there are no other public comments, then we can close the public hearing. And
Oh, I had one quick question. I was looking at our website thing the other day too. And we started out $1,200, next year was $2,400, and next year's $36. Then it was went to 36, and I'm just kind of curious why each year it's doubling, or the first year it doubled, the second year 50% basically.
there are some transactional fees. We're constantly changing the website, the host fees.
Okay?
If we ask them to do something or to design additional inserts.
Yeah.
As a rule, I don't pay a lot of attention to those bills, but I'll make a note here and just give you a little bit better understanding as to what the current base rate is and then what the transactional fees are when we add or delete, things to either the home page or the forum pages.
Ken, we talked about that at a meeting a month or two ago. We talked about that because we wanted to get a notice up. I think it was last month we talked about that with the big water leak we had, and we lost pressure in the system. We wanted to get a notice up on there so that people would know what's going on. Is there a possibility that Kevin can do some of that stuff instead of going to them every time we should have like a...
Yeah, I'm not a tech person, but that has already been done. That's on the action item list on the regular agenda. Information for our client representative for the web host company. They both maintain and host. It's on their server, your website. So if we had a water main break tomorrow morning, either Kevin or I now can contact them even on the weekend in order to get emergency or boil water notices up on the website.
But we have to have that put every time.
Yeah.
If we have it set up with a password, it's very simple to go in there and just add a line of notice, like a notice section where you just jump in there and put a notice and we don't need.
I'll research that. If we can make our own maintenance changes to the website, whether it's the next meeting or copies of the utility rate schedule and all of that, we're on there constantly doing something.
If they design it, they can put in like a notice box.
Yeah, I'm sure it needs a password.
All you do is throw a password or go in the notice box and add a low pressure notice or whatever, and you don't have to go through them and wait a day for them to get around to doing it. I think it would work really slick.
Like that handout I did this morning too, at the back of it, it's got a map on there that showed where the original different areas that had Roman numerals on them, and that's outdated. If we could change that and give it to Kevin and he could just repost it, we don't have to lose something in translation.
Yeah, I'll take a look at our current agreement and see if we can self-manage, for lack of a better term.
Perfect.
The monthly maintenance to the website.
Right.
With that, then I've got two resolutions. The first one will be a resolution. This is 2025-2. A resolution adopting the final general fund budget for the Islands Community Improvement District for fiscal year 2026 and authorizing the chairman to execute the resolution. Is there a motion to that effect?
Just as a clarifying question, will this have the edits discussed?
Yeah.
Added to the budget? Should it be put on the record with the vote? I advise that we put on the record.
Yeah, I'll do it again. The final budget on the, as it pertains to the non-ad valorem assessment will be $815,105. That is a $721.26 per ERU assessment for the general fund. There is no assessment again for the utility fund next year.
Lisa, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, wait, I still got a question here. All right, so this approval of the general fund budget, that's assuming all our O&Ms are the same. Because you're talking about, down here, you're talking about levying of maintenance and assessment for year 2026. Is something going to change there, or potentially change there?
That'll be the next discussion and the next motion.
Or we're doing the
Separate
budget.
resolution.
But we're doing the budget first. If we change something there, doesn't it change the general budget?
It depends on the nature of the change.
Say we reduce an O&M, on something.
I would typically, if it's something that is
I mean, it's going to be minimal.
I would deal with that through a budget amendment sometime in the first quarter of the new year. That's routinely how we would sort of do that kind of thing.
Okay.
For example, if as part of the next motion, you decide that you no longer want to charge, the cell tower, then you don't think they get the benefit or whatever, I mean, and if we change that, they're currently paying like 1.16 based off of their acreage. That is not a material change, and so I would deal with that in the budget amendment process at some point in the first quarter.
It just seems like it's kind of,
I understand.
It can typically be wonky because they're two separate resolutions, but it's typical, they just kind of follow one another. But if you think, if you'd be more comfortable, if you feel that we need to talk about the other one before doing this, it's certainly an option, but
if you can do a budget amendment, I'm okay with that.
Okay, all in favor of accepting this resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the second motion and resolution will be 2025-3. This is a resolution levying a maintenance assessment within the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District for fiscal year 2026. Again, as currently forecast, there are 1,130 and 11/10 ERUs based off of your most recent approved methodology update from 2022. Since that time, and I should have said this maybe earlier, Mr. Kish and I have had an opportunity to have a teleconference with Mr. Weir, who is the economist who has formulated most, if not all, of the methodologies for CIDs and CDDs in at least Southwest Florida. I know that Russ may have had some subsequent conversations or emails with him, but this would be a good time. If you've got suggested changes to the current role, I need to have those today so that we can make those changes before we transmit the role to the property appraiser.
Now, I talked to Zach this morning about the non-ad valerms for O&Ms, how, we've been going back and forth with the marina people about stormwater runoff and whether or not they were getting the same usage as everyone else. I have since found out, and then Stella Maris North has always been after us trying to take over their stormwater drainage. Well, I didn't realize that almost all, if not all, the HOAs in here are already taking care of their own stormwater drainage. So, in my mind, it isn't just about the marina docks. It's also about all the other HOAs who are currently paying to take care of their stormwater drainage, where the single-family home has got that included in their assessments. So I came up with another CDD, Southern Plantation, and I looked at how they did theirs, and I feel like it's a really good textbook type of thing that we can use to figure out how ours works. But anyway, with going through that, you look at the different things, like landscaping, and I went through our records where this stuff went through the courts, where we were being sued, and how it read out in there. It's just like landscaping. Everybody shares in landscaping. Everybody shares in streetlights. Everybody shares in administration. The only one that I had trouble with was the stormwater management. Okay, that's probably one of our cheapest line items that we have in here is for that line item. Now, before everybody was saying, well, how many trips how are you getting to your property? You're driving on the roads, you're doing all that. But it's bigger than that, because what it is, yes, it's stormwater is what's coming off your roofs and on your driveways or anything that's an impervious surface. But that also takes into effect what's coming off of our streets and going down into our stormwater management. So when you think about stormwater management, you can't look at it as just, well, I don't have a house, I just have a dock, so therefore I shouldn't have to pay for any stormwater management. It's not correct, because you still have to pay for the rest of the community as a whole. And like I said before, it's a small number, but what we need to do is figure out what that number should be. And I'm going to guess that it's going to be a small percentage of difference, but we need to go through and actually figure that out so that we can make this fair. And if I were to guess, I'm going to guess that, like the condominiums now are paying a 1 on their O&Ms, everybody is. I'm thinking that's going to go down probably to around a 9 or something. You know, we haven't done the math yet, but we do need to take that into account and change that. But what I'm trying to beat around the bush on here is the fact that when you think about stormwater management, it's not just the fact that you don't have a house that the water's running off, or a driveway or a parking lot or whatever. It's, you still end up having to pay your portion of the entire port.
Okay, I just have one thing to add, and it's gonna throw a wrench into that. They tried to do that with the county a couple of years ago. Remember, they were trying to hit everybody up?
It's the stormwater special assessment.
Yeah, and that got nixed throughout the county.
Just for, and I was actually in attendance at that hearing, but I don't have a perfect recollection of it. But I recall that it had to do with the way the county figured out everyone's pervious versus impervious area, involved them using aerial imagery, and there was a lot of questions about whether that was accurate. And then there was a separate set of questions, because when we look at it countywide, you all are in a more defined ecosystem. Countywide, the problem was that a house that's on 10 acres out east of the estates is very different than something that's on a quarter acre on Livingston Road. And so really who came and opposed that, and it wasn't that it got challenged and struck down, it's that it didn't pass the political level. The board never approved it, because basically all of the estate's property owners showed up at this hearing and said, we maintain our own stormwater, because we are all on at least 2.5 acre lots. Some of us are on 5 and 10 acre lots, and we're retaining huge amounts of water. Your consultant didn't consider that. And so I don't know that it was an indication that it couldn't be done. I think what came out of that hearing was the county did not get granular enough to figure out what the answer was. And then the commissioners felt that they couldn't vote to approve this, because the hearing took something like 6 hours, and there were hundreds of commenters from the estates who were extremely upset with them. So there was a large amount of political pressure. But I think what's being discussed here is, as I hear it, is that this would be a more granular look at the assessment methodology to try to get to a better and more precise answer.
So we could get to that in a month?
You need to, I mean,
You know what, I just got the assessment rules from him, and we already know what our costs are. So now we just have to figure out a comparison.
My thought, my understanding is that we would need to get a consultant to do this, and then you would review it and do workshop. It would strike me as unlikely that this would be part of this year's budget.
I would think that your civil engineer, who is best equipped to evaluate or analyze the benefits from like an on-site water management system, whether it's Delamaris or Orchid Cove, and make some recommendation. I think your consultant may already be retained. I think he would probably be the best one to look at your total water management cost center, and then try and imply, or factor credits where appropriate. I don't think that would be real complicated to do.
And the reason I bring this up is because when I look at non-ad valorem taxes, they must be based on benefits received. And so you actually have to look at the different types of things that you're assessing for. And in the past here, before we got on, it was they took, what they thought was O&Ms and the plant out here, and they just split everything down the middle. Administration to everything in here was just split down the middle, and that's how it was done. I don't feel like that was an honest effort, and I think that it could put us at a little bit of risk if something was brought to court. And so it's never been done before, so I think it's time that we do that and start going through this and looking at it And then when somebody comes up and says, I don't think that's fair, you can show them, this is how we came up with this. This wasn't just an arbitrary number that we picked out of the air, which, last year when we went to the one ERC for operation and maintenance, I'm not sure that we did what we should have done on that.
Well, I'm not against it, I just didn't know if we could do it in a month.
Oh, I don't know what we can do. I don't know that we have to have it done in a month.
Okay.
No, I think the idea, I think what I'm hearing is this is something that can be done to better prepare for the following budget cycle, not for the one that you're voting on. You're voting on one today.
Right.
So it would be advisable to make sure that you have the data in advance, do the workshops. And I just want to put out onto the record that there was an assessment methodology that supported the current model, but it's always, assessment methodologies are essentially fact arguments, and so could you tweak them? Can you get more granular? Yes, but I don't know that I don't think that it's the case that there wasn't any basis for what's currently in place. I think the answer is there's an assessment methodology that was reviewed by you all, maybe even your predecessors. And so I don't want to have the record state that, or my advice would be that we acknowledge that there was an assessment methodology, but what you're pointing out is everything can be tweaked, more facts can be gathered, and we can get to an answer that's easier to explain to everybody. And I did look at that report that you showed me with you this morning, and I agree that that consultant did a very detailed review. And I think that it would be either, whether it's your engineer or that consultant, there's a path here to get to a more.
In fact, I think that consultant is your consultant. That's Russ Wyer's firm that did the methodology that you texted me.
Oh, it is?
I believe so.
Okay, I didn't know what his firm's name
So
was.
yeah, that may be.
Well, then good news, you've already retained this consultant.
Is he out in Naples?
Yes.
Maybe it's him then. Okay.
I think
That was
so.
a very good report, and I thought for us, using that as a template,
Well,
it was great.
and to Zach's point, we have most recently modified the methodology in the 2024 fiscal year. That was really
Yes.
our first full year here as your manager. And we added like 135 units to the roll. The majority of those were in the parcel 13 tract got added. We added a large single-family residential tract. We added the cell tower tract. We substantially increased the gun club tract allocation, and we included for the first time ever the county-owned marina and boat ramp. They got hit with 15 ERUs in total. So there's a process for making those sort of changes. And we
Is this the time to talk about that? Because I was
I don't
looking
know
at
that
this.
today is the day to try and change it. I would say unless Russ has a particular minor proposal, I think the best would be to do it early in the new year. And if you decide that reimbursements and some sort of look back, are warranted, otherwise we would treat it as a budget issue when we go to prepare the next budget next spring.
Well, my thing is I've been looking back in the past where ERCs were originally put on each piece of property and how many, and then how it has evolved through the years. And I talked to Zach about this, and we've had so many, we have 266 ERCs that are supposed to be in this pool. And it's my contention that our rules procedures weren't really set up for that. It was supposed to be where ERCs were moved from one parcel to another, not taken off of it or whatever. Because I'm looking at the hotel, the old hotel property, for instance. There's close to 89 ERCs on that. Well, because the county got the land, we took the ERCs off it. I'm going, why should they have come off of it? Because as far as I'm concerned, they should still be attached to that. And at some point, if somebody needs more ERCs, they go to the county and they ask them to transfer some over. But at the very most, we should only have a couple of dozen at the most of ERCs that over the years that we've gotten that are in question. And one of them was that 1 acre that we got from the gun club. And we took 6 ERCs off that. they took those off and put them in the pool, and I'm saying, no, those 6 ERCs should still be attached to that piece of property. It doesn't mean that later on, if the CID wants to sell 6 ERCs, they could remove them from that piece of property. And what I'm saying, anything that isn't attributed now, if it's a couple dozen or whatever, and we need a place to park them on parcel B. So now parcel B may have 3 dozen of them on there, but the CID still owns that, so it's attached to a piece of property rather than just being in this limbo account. And I want to work on that, but
If I just procedurally, so you have an agenda item in the main meeting here on ERC transfer.
okay, let's
And
read
then,
the
and then, and then the other place I think is, when at the end, when we're gonna go over the tax list,
Mhm.
I think it makes sense to talk about the steps to getting towards the assessment methodology piece.
Very
The
good.
tax list is currently the last 2 pages, and
Okay.
based on my review, everybody completed everything, so we have capacity to do more stuff here, and we can get it here.
very good.
With that, Mr. Kish, do you have a particular minor modification that you alluded to at the beginning?
Yeah, I swear I wasn't here when we voted on it last time, and it was B&D docs. I cannot understand, I'm waiting for somebody to explain to me the rationale that they pay the same O&M, which is not a liveaboard, it's just a 20-foot boat in there. How that pays the same thing as my house. To me, somebody's got to rationalize that out for me, because my house, I could have 8 people in there, I got 4,000 square feet, and that's going to pay the same as a boat that's 20 foot long. The rationale is not there for me, but if somebody can explain it, that they can, how that's rational, I'll change my viewpoint.
What would you like it to do? Go back to 2.5?
0.25, yeah.
0.25 and the 5?
Well, I don't care about the liveaboards that much.
What about creating the new,
It's mostly the little boats.
what about creating the new level for commercial boat docks?
Well, that probably will come next year. I don't know that we can address something like that now.
I think, yeah, as to the commercial one, this is something that I think it makes sense to do as part of the assessment methodology redo, so that there's so you have data other than just sort of, I think observationally, it's clear to see that it's, generally speaking, we would expect it to be a higher use than a non-commercial one, but because you have this assessment methodology backing everything else up, it makes sense that be part of that process. At least that would be my advice.
It would be better to do it all out, take everything through the assessment methodology.
That's my recommendation, because you're except the only thing, if, I don't know, is Mr. Wire on? I don't know if he's on the meeting now or not. Is he?
Well, the recommendation for wire for B&D docs was 0.25.
In which case, then I think that you have the support you need to do that.
Do you want to,
But I think it'd be
do
helpful.
you want to
see
make a motion to do something?
That's on my list. Yeah, I want to make a motion to change B&D docs to 0.25 on O&Ms.
Okay.
I don't have it with me, but when we originally had this discussion, again, it's been 2 years ago now, we did a survey or an inventory of all of the condominiumized docks, and so I don't have that with me. I do, and I gave to the chairman because he asked me to bring it today, a separate schedule for all docks. And so as I sit here, I don't know how many docks are on B&D. I would have to research that. I think if you want to
I think it's like
make a
30
finding,
slips.
Yeah, 30 on each probably.
if you want to make a finding that docks without utilities should be adjusted, I think, Zach, they probably could do that today.
Yes.
They have utilities.
That's the way I understood how
They
he,
have utilities.
So you're saying the docks that only have a hose bib to it, that are designated for that use, like,
the one
I'm
thing
saying you can't use it 24 hours a day. You can't, live on it. You can't walk your dog from there. You can't, it's just,
that's fine, Russ. I don't have a problem with you making that.
so.
I just want to make sure that from the management side, we have to be clear about which exact docks we're talking about. Is it clear to you which exact docks we're talking about?
It's not to me.
Because what if there's, you've got two sets of docks, or could there be some of those sprinkled in into the other docks as well, so that they would be excluded now?
The smaller,
Yeah.
Well, and I guess,
I don't think so.
I believe I heard the motion is B and D docks, so I assume we know which docks those are.
Is there anyone here from the marina that could help us with this? Come on, please.
B and D are doing what's with the fishing boats. Most of us are homeowners, so we're already paying that fee for using the roads and such. That's why, thank you, Russ, I appreciate you bringing this up, because I think it isn't fair. That's why we got so upset when we had to pay the same thing. It's not that we don't want to pay, but we're already paying it.
but they're all small slips, right?
They're all small slips, they already take fishing boats. Now, you could technically put a fishing boat on the other ones, but they're not tagged for that, they're tagged for liveaboards. So that's like, I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna put a little car in the driveway, I'm not using it all, but, it's still your driveway, so, but.
But you can't put a liveaboard where the B and D docks are.
No,
So it's only those two docks?
only those two docks, the B and the D, are the only ones that have the fishing boats and no liveaboards on them.
Okay, all right, thank you for that.
And then I guess with that information, the other
Since
thing.
I'm here.
Well, I'd like to address that, because we've talked about this at length many times, all right? Those boat slips, those fishing boats, she says they already pay, that's not true, all right? They pay for their condo. I'm sorry to say, if they could put docks out by their condo, attach it to their master property or whatever, through the condo fees or whatever, you could be in the same situation as the other condos that have docks, all right? But because you're a separate parcel with a separate tax ID number, I could turn and say, I just talked to a guy a couple months ago, I talked to a guy that was building a new house in one of those developments that are Parkway out now, that are getting closer to the port. Right, he said he was looking for a dock, and I said, well, go to the marina, you might be able to find one. Sometimes, there's some up for sale. All right, he wants to have a boat dock for his condo that's down the road, that's not part of Port of the Islands. So he comes in and wants to park his fishing boat there, he buys a dock, parks his fishing boat there, and if we go to a .25, he pays nothing to support the port, but yet he comes in and out of here all the time.
How's that nothing?
It's not nothing, we're still paying something, just not as much.
He's not paying .25,
I mean, I'm still paying for
that's
the
nothing.
road that I use, I have one car using the road, and most of us that have the road here is the same.
I
It's a
don't
very
If
rare
you don't
situation.
get on the X, we're not gonna get the audio report.
I understand that, Joyce, that
It's a very rare situation for somebody off premise. We do have some people that don't live here, but it's not like we're not paying anything. We're just not paying as much because we don't have a family living there, we don't have 2 or 3 people living there. We come there once, maybe a week, and take the boat out and bring it back in, and I'm still using the same road. It's not like I'm putting
okay,
in
so
more
I'm
wear
gonna,
and tear.
let's just talk through this. I'm gonna compare you to my neighbor in the condo. They come down for 3 2-week vacations a year. That's it. They're both working yet. That's what they come down for.
Right.
Okay, the rest of the time they sit there. They don't have kids, they don't have more, they have 2. All right, they're here 6 weeks out of the year. They pay the same fees because the ability to use that is there. Same with the boat dock. You may come once a week, there's another guy that might go fishing every day. All right, the object behind it is that boat dock has an unlimited use. You can't live there. You can spend, I looked it up in the rules a long time ago, you can spend like 5 times, you can do a 5-day stint a couple times a year and
Yeah, but nobody
and
does
other
that.
things, but you can't. I'm just,
Possibly could,
right, but it's not a liveaboard, I agree with you.
But the point is that we're not paying nothing. And if I just use my condo 3 times a year, I'm still paying for that condo. But now you're not using the boat the same way you're using the condo. You can't rent it out. You could, well, I guess technically you could. But it's not like we're not paying anything. We're paying too much. Is my.
You're paying too much now.
Yes, I mean, to pay the same thing that I pay for a condo.
Maybe a boat that's stored there on the parking lot should pay the same too, because they can still use the boat dock every day. They come in, they can hook up their boat, put it into the water, and use it every day. So maybe every single,
Well, the boats
boat,
that are
everybody,
stored
every
there
single
have
person
service
that has a place to park a boat on those that parking area, they should pay a 1.
But you can only charge for a person that has a tax portfolio. You can't charge for somebody
Oh,
that's using.
well, that's a
You know
difference.
what, we've fought this so many times already,
not
let's not
rational.
use up a ton of time on this right now. One quick question, are any of those 2 docks there, being used commercially?
D-Doc is a commercial dock. D-Doc doesn't have any commercial.
Okay, so that's gonna be a difference as well, but do we just treat it, you know, I don't know, I'm just asking because I've never thought about it. But what she's saying is, if we've got commercial going out of D-Doc, you don't wanna put them down to a point.
What is that, like tour guides or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if we're gonna do this and get back into these discussions, all right, that we're gonna have to do it with the methodology that we're gonna use for everything, because otherwise we're gonna sit here and argue. There'll be no methodology to it, it'll just be, oh, make it 0.25. I think if we're gonna do it, we do what we talked about.
Well, we did have methodology. It was recommended by Wire that it be 0.25.
Hang on
And
one,
he also said he could support 1.
That's not what he told me last week.
That was a quote from him.
Well,
Okay.
we'd have to have that
all
in
right,
a minute.
all right, let's,
Just as a.
hang on a second now.
Quick thought. I do think it would be very helpful to have the methodology, but what might help more in this situation is instead of waiting, I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying if you're going to go the methodology route, I wouldn't wait to the beginning of the year to start this process, because I think what happens is if you wait until January, February to even start this, you're going to end up in this crunch again. And then when I go back and look at the minutes that got you into these discussions here today, is that there's a lot.
Didn't we say that last November?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We were talking to putting it off,
But I'm-
and then it got right back to the same spot.
Okay, well, I'm saying that we, in the task list, we asked, you have the consultant be here in September to literally start the process in September. We can get on the record the issues, but that's on the more global issue. On the more local issue of what's the dock amount, it is my understanding that it was in the recommendation from Mr. Wire, at least his initial recommendation, that it would be 0.25. So if that's an adjustment you want to make, I think that is a supportable adjustment and it can be done today. But you may need to ask more questions to the manager about what the revenue impact of that is, since there's a budget tied to this. You did reduce the budget some, and so maybe that will balance out, but depending on the number of docks, you're effectively removing a certain amount of O&M payments that you would have received otherwise.
So, going to Russ's thing here, I would be in favor of reducing those single docks to that 0.25, as long as we could establish which of those docks on D-Dock are being used commercially, and that doesn't get brought into the 0.25.
Yeah, I didn't know there were any commercial docks.
I didn't tell this minute either.
Yeah. So, commercial's different, they
But
will use it.
I wouldn't mind making this change now, knowing that we're gonna go in and do the in-depth look at the methodology stuff.
That's what I'm hearing you say is you're going to do that. So I think if you are going to do it, I think you have the consultant at the September meeting to provide the initial framework of what you're wanting them to look into. So
Give me your opinion.
Well, my opinion is, I go along with what Dan said, is the reason that we went to 1 is because they're getting the same use out of it. Nobody's saying when you come here into this community that you have to buy a house or you have to buy a condo that doesn't have the access to a boat dock, or a condo with a boat dock. So the cost of what you're buying is all relative. You know, when you pay $1 million for a house or $500,000 for a condo that has a boat dock with it, you're paying taxes for that to the county, even before the CID is even involved. So if you don't have access to a boat dock and all of a sudden you decide you want to purchase a boat dock over at the marina, that's a separate entity. It's a different tax portfolio. And should be, that should get the same exact opportunity as everybody else, because they use the same roads, and if it's the same person using the same roads, it doesn't matter.
The only caveat to that is what I was saying before about you gotta go through all the line items, and that they're not getting the same stormwater runoff. That's why I don't believe, if you agree to leave it all at a 1, I still believe that factor needs to be pulled out of that.
Well, it needs to be pulled out, just like you had illustrated with the condos as well.
Yeah.
Because we pay for our own storage.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. I want us to be on
But everything else is the same, so.
right.
But the only problem I have with that logic is these people bought originally, and it wasn't that. We jacked them, even up to 0.25, we jacked them up. And then we did it 4 times that in one sitting, just like that. So it wasn't that they bought knowing it was gonna be that cost. Because if you want to grandfather the people that have been here out, put them to 0.25, that, whatever date we switched this. But those people didn't buy knowing it was gonna cost them that much. Maybe they wouldn't have bought it, they had to pay another $400.
Well, the good thing is the values of those boat slips have gone way the heck up. So, I mean, to that argument, if you didn't want to pay that, you could take the profit and sell it. But here again, we got too much to cover here to keep pounding this one.
All right.
I would like to, and I mentioned that I would revisit that. I will never be in favor of a 0.25 because that comes out on $700. That's like, what, 180? 100 what?
$180.
$180. All right, they pay $180 for all the roads we gotta take care of, all the landscaping, the administration, all the stuff we have to take care of. They pay $180 a year. When I say that's nothing, in the realm of taxes, that's nothing.
Okay, well, how would you feel?
When you got a $2 million home, you're only paying 4 times that,
But
how much is that? That's
But the
really
sad
nothing
thing
too.
is
That's
that when you look at the
minuscule. We should jack it
O&Ms,
up.
we're talking O&Ms and not the ERC.
Well,
Doesn't matter.
okay, hang on a second here. You're thinking 0.25 and you're saying 1. Should we look at a middle ground?
We can, but again, and I don't have a problem with that for the,
And this will be a temporary thing.
Then we're just gonna be dicking around with it again. I think
Okay,
we'll just wait, like you said.
I'd rather take it through the methodology, come back next year with everything. You can have the commercial, the fishing boats, you can go right through it, because then we're gonna have to address the condos at the hotel, and all the condos in general are gonna have to get put into that same thing. It's gonna change everything right down to the houses, right? We just talked about that a little while ago,
Okay.
that would change it all.
Do you wanna rescind your motion?
Nobody's gonna approve it anyway, so we might as well.
He didn't get a second.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Barring that.
I'm sorry we don't have time to
and all the
straighten this
other-
out today.
The comment, and the appropriate motion would be to authorize the assessment roll as submitted, resolution 2025-3, and that I'll have the chairman authorized to execute the motion.
Does anyone want to make a motion to accept this resolution?
We had it, and second, I think, did Annalise do
Oh,
that?
yeah, maybe we
That
did.
was the first. Annalise?
I made that motion.
On the second one, or the first one?
First
Okay,
one, I did the first.
2025-3. Someone make a motion that we accept that.
I make the motion.
Okay, and
I'll second it.
and he seconds it. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you for that. That concludes the public hearing for the 2026 budget. That will take us over then to the next, are there any other public comments? For items not on the agenda, this would be item 3, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir, please come, and if you don't mind, identify yourself.
Alan Zito for the Islands. I appreciate you bringing it up and talking about it, the OEMs. I appreciate the fact that y'all do a lot of work on these things. What I don't appreciate is that you're saying that you don't have enough time to deal with this. You've had a year to deal with this, these OEMs on the docks. If you had a year to come up with a solution, you haven't come up with anything. We're dealing with a possible lawsuit from Scott Creppen. I will happily be on board with that lawsuit with them too as well. If you have another solution for commercial properties, that's on you, whenever you want to do it. It is not the same. You do not have the same access. It is not the exact same to have a $2 million home and justify that, hey, those boat slips went up a whole bunch. If you don't like it, get on out. Your house went up a whole bunch of money too as well. Why don't you just sell it and get the hell out of here too as well? Thank you. That's all.
Any other public comments? part of that, then that takes us down to the review and approval of the minutes from your last regular meeting that occurred in July. These were previously transmitted. This was I think we had two sets. We had both the utility rate workshop and the regular meeting that occurred on July the 18th. Ms. Hanson, did you have any suggested amendments or changes?
I do. On the transfer of ERCs and O&Ms,
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking something else. Never mind.
Okay, we're actually looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of the workshop and regular meeting from July the 18th.
I make a motion that we accept those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 5 today is our monthly utility operations report, and the big man is here. Mitch is here.
Call me that. Call me that.
Good morning, everybody. No see.
So the water and wastewater plant, we met all the FDEQ requirements as usual, which is pretty good. Your plant always runs excellent, and that isn't always the case at a lot of private utilities. You know the situation with the pump station over on the canal, that's nothing new. Wastewater treated, we treated 2.98 million gallons. Water, we treated or produced 3.12 million gallons, and we distributed 7.39 million gallons of irrigation water for the month of July. Preventative maintenance, we did all of our monthly lift station checks, had no odor complaints. All the pumps and motors at the plant were greased. We did have a VFD failure on RO number 1 at the plant. That's the variable frequency drive that drives the high pressure pump. It happened on like a Friday. Matt was able to overnight it. We were good to run over the weekend. Monday we put the new one in and got it up and running, so our downtime was minimal.
Great.
And we had a workaround even if the other one would have failed.
Okay.
SCADA's working, Matt stays on top of that. We had a couple little meter leaks that were repaired. We did have a mainline break on Newport Cave, which I think Steve and Kevin, everybody's aware of it. Dan, that, we tried to fix it the first day we got the call. We dug to 6 foot, and at that point the groundwater was too much. We had to back off of it and call in Stark and Sully. They came in, they tried to fix it at 7 foot, were unable. They had to come in the very next day and well point everything, dry out the area, pump it across the road. Then they came back and shored it up, dug down, and made the repair. You'll be seeing the bill for that. It's a hefty bill. It's like $28,000.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Ouch.
Absolutely. And we used multiple companies. Stark and Sullivan, they actually came that day, and their price is right in line with normal pricing. We did not bill you for the first day we were there because we weren't able to accomplish anything. And then we asked Soto to do the landscape repair because that really isn't our forte.
So what would the reason for that water main break be?
Well, actually it wasn't a water main, it actually was a saddle. And we're probably gonna see a few more eventually.
Yeah.
It's a galvanized saddle that was put on the line. And then instead of, normally they put a brass fitting with poly tubing, this had a PVC fitting and then it's piped straight up. Well, that PVC started to leak and it just started kind of spewing through the galvanized, and it actually cut a big trench right in the galvanized. We got some pictures we can send you if you want. So when we replaced it with stainless steel. So that one won't be a problem in the future, but there will be more.
Do you think there'll be more?
I think
Would
so.
you have any idea where those are?
There is absolutely
No
zero
way.
way. No, the bike was C900, it was excellent, but the saddle was not.
About how many quantity-wise saddles?
Well, there's usually one saddle for every 2 homes. So one house has one, or 2 houses have one saddle and it tees off and goes one to each house.
So at some point, is it going to be more cost effective to replace those lines?
I wouldn't even,
Rather than paying that 28 grand every time?
I wouldn't even entertain that until
No?
it happens again.
Okay.
So right now, it's really wet, the water table's up. If it happened in dry season, we may have been able to get it without well pointing and fixed it, and then it would have been an $8,000 repair. So if it were me, I would entertain the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
Very
wait
good.
and see if, I mean, it may not happen again for 10 years.
All right, very good.
There's no way to shut the water down on that.
So for that one, we didn't want to shut the whole community down, so we were able to shut that one down at the corner and only put those last 10 houses on the boil water notice, which was really, really good, compared to shutting down everyone to achieve that. Also, we did the biannual backflow certifications. I don't know, when we first started, they used to be annual, and then the state decided you could do them every other year if you wanted to as the purveyor. You are the purveyor, and it was decided a long time ago to do them every other year. So we just finished those. You'll be seeing a bill for that as well.
Say on the backflows question.
Yes,
I know
sir.
we had a couple of them go, we just had one go the other day, they had to replace. The typical backflow on a house or condo, I think they're like $400 for a new one.
For the backflow, but then if you have to replace the brass pipes to go down, that's another $300 to $400. And then for our contract rate, I think we're at $85 an hour with you guys. You're looking at 3 or 4 hours of labor. So you can spend $1,000 pretty easily.
On the backflow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we rebuild those brass backflow preventers?
We rebuild them when they're rebuildable. Not always are they. If the seat inside goes bad, there's nothing we can do about it. But every time it can be rebuilt, we rebuild it.
You
Absolutely.
can't recut those seats like you will on the motor or something.
You might be able to take it and send it to a machine shop and have it done, but I don't think it would be cost
Okay,
effective.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, we just, you know, how many of those do we have backflow preventers in the community? We have
Every home.
every home,
Yeah.
close to 900.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the bill that I believe, it's gonna be like $40,000 to certify that. My next question is that thing considered personal property, or is it?
So that's the age-old question at Port of the Islands. It's been talked about back and forth, but it's always been decided that the utility
And
would.
it is a condition of our operating permit, as I understand it.
It is, absolutely. And normally, if it breaks after the backflow, we always tell the homeowner you have to secure a plumber to fix it. But if it's from the backflow back to the street, we always take
I just
care of it.
wanted that to be part of the record. That is fairly typical, and what you would, I'll probably bring a budget amendment to the next meeting because I was not aware that that was going to occur this year. So I didn't budget for him to certify 700 backflow assemblies, and I just need to true that up on the budget side.
Okay. I guess on the backflows, I am in favor of them being the utility because most of our problems are the backflow preventers somewhere on the elbows, the unit itself, right?
Sure.
At least around the condos that I know, that's most of them have that.
Yes.
And if people aren't here, it's difficult, like if it was theirs, it would be difficult to, you'd have to just go shut the water off and leave it sit. So
We have another utility, and that's exactly
that's what they do.
how it works, and it's always a nightmare because they show up 4 or 5 months later, and then they have no water, and they have to call a plumber, and
Yeah.
they're always super frustrated.
It can get expensive on large devices. I self-manage a little project where my office is, and that is a big backflow preventer.
You could spend $30,000 easily on that back.
Yeah, and so when it comes to commercial or very large assemblies, I'd want to cover those cases.
How much is a 2-inch compared to what we
A
have?
2-inch, I'm just guessing, I'm gonna say to purchase a 2 inches in the $1,200 range.
Okay, because
then-
I think that's about the biggest
Yeah.
backflow we
Yes.
have here, right?
Yeah.
That's-
Anything else? Russ?
Isn't the backflow preventer, that comes right up the house with the faucet?
No, that's the one out by the meter box, out in the front yard.
Comes up out of the
Sticks up,
ground,
You'll
it's got
see it drip every now and then.
145 degree, and it's got the bell on it.
Exactly.
So do you open each one of those up?
Yes, so you have to go around to each one and
Oh.
hook a gauge up to it, and you have to check the pressure differential. You have to simulate back pressure. For example, if you were at your house and hooked up a high pressure pump and tried to pump something back into the water main, it will stop that. It has 2 check valves that stop it, and if they fail, then it'll start dumping it out the bottom.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
No wonder it costs that much.
Yeah, I think we spent about 6 weeks doing
Yeah.
We had talked about with Matt, whether you like those backflow preventers kept wet or dry when people go home or go away.
it. I think it's good to keep it wet,
Keep it
always,
wet.
absolutely.
So we should probably send something out in the billing, a little sheet that says on the backflow preventer, there's one out on the street side, so to speak, and one on the house side for shut-offs. You should leave the water on through the backflow, right on the back side of it, there's a valve. That's the one that should go on and off if you want to shut your water off when you're gone. That way the backflow stays wet, because Matt was saying that they dry out when they sit for a long period of time, and that just creates more problems. So,
Do we actually have very many people shutting their water off?
yeah, a lot of people,
Do we?
They're worried about that ice maker line
Okay.
when they go home.
Yeah.
They don't-
Yeah.
when I leave, I
Okay. All right.
It's in our docs, so people are leaving for more than a few weeks, you shut it off. I'll add it at the street.
At the house side of the backflow preventer.
Well, we should clarify what they said.
That's what I'm talking about, because the one they just had, they shut off on the other side with backflow, and it was dry for a while, and then when they came to turn it back on, it was dry for almost a year. I talked to him, and when he turned it back on, it didn't work.
Sure.
And that happens sometimes. Usually, if it's just dripping or it's something simple, we just fix it because we're here. I can have the operator come take care of it. But if it dries totally out, like the diaphragm's bad, then we charge you guys.
So you think it's worth putting that out there, that they should shut it off and keep it wet?
Absolutely. A long time ago, or in years past, you'll see that we took the handles off of the front and only left the ones in the back, so that they could turn it off at the back of the backflow and keep it.
I wonder if we could take pictures.
We're doing it again.
I'm wondering if we could take pictures of that and put that on our website so people will understand what you're talking about.
Handles off the front side would make it
Yeah,
really
but
easy.
like he said, a lot of times they'll still go into the meter box and try to turn it off at the meter. So that would be a good idea, just to put there, here's what we
Because I
recommend.
don't understand.
To include it in the billing, we could put a.
Yeah, but telling them isn't the same as showing
We
them.
could put it on a piece of paper
Okay.
and send it out.
I'd still rather put it on the website too, because they're gonna throw that piece of paper away.
That's fine.
But whatever, you
It
know,
sounds
or,
like, according to these guys, it's worth it to keep it wet, so.
and being we're one paying the bill on it, it's to our advantage to educate the people on
Right.
how to do it right.
It's worth it to you financially and worth it to
Absolutely.
us, just not to have to spend the time
Okay.
Let's do that.
troubleshooting all
Okay.
the little issues all the time.
Action.
Perfect.
If you'll take that, Kevin, and pass them down. One thing that we, FUS, have forgotten, the permit renewal at the wastewater treatment plant, as part of that, I don't know, you remember there were some upgrades we had to do. There were the disc filter we had to put in. There was a lift station rehab that we missed. And we're not over the deadline by any means, but we have to think about doing that in the near future. That is for the master lift station on Case Drive. The other two down there pump to that one, so it's a repump station. That's the one they want it repiped, they want it coated to meet FEP current requirements. And that
So
pricing
this is a bill to do this,
that's
yes.
to do the complete rehab, and that's based off of our contract pricing.
Do we have this in our budget? Neil? I mean, do we need to change the budget? Because obviously we need to do it.
I want your motion to accept his report today to include the budget amendment that I alluded to for the backflow certification.
Okay?
I'll take another look at my year-end forecast. If I need a second budget amendment, let's do that next month. And I'll keep this item on their page.
You want to get at this right away, or?
But that's up to you, the sooner the better.
Well, it's hurricane season.
It is. So it'll take about a
You want
week.
to do it during hurricane, or?
It's about a week-long process. So we put a bypass pump in, we bypass around the lift station, it's a diesel pump, and we strip everything out of it. It'll be totally empty, then they get in there and sandblast it, and they fix the concrete, they spray it with an epoxy coating, and then we put all new HDPE piping and stainless steel guide rails.
Tell us when you want us to do, when you want to do it.
Little better. I would like to do it just so it's not lingering with the FDEP, but
Let's just do it.
Authorize it today, and I'll deal with the budget implications next month, and I'll report that separately.
Do we
Well,
need,
budget implications, it goes into this year, doesn't go into the next budget.
No, I agree. That's why if I need a budget amendment,
Just do it.
year end, I'll do that next month.
Do you just want a motion to do this, or? Okay.
Motion to accept the proposal, and I'll deal with the budget amendment if that's
Okay, I make
necessary.
a motion that we accept this estimate here, and that he can move forward with doing the process.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody out there that the total cost to redo that lift station is $64,575.
So between that and that, just going through all the backflow preventers, we just spent 100 grand. We gotta do it.
And that motion, for purposes of the record, did reflect the budget amendment for the backflow certification.
Sure. Do you want a separate motion on the acceptance of the report?
Yeah, we can. If somebody makes a separate motion just to accept the monthly report.
I make a motion to accept the monthly report.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions for me?
Yeah. That pump out station that's over by the gun club, that overflow or whatever the hell it is that okay to pump in? I mean, seeing we haven't cut it or got the trees out or anything else yet.
Are you talking about the lift station that used to be for the
No,
old?
no.
Talking about that holding pond.
The holding pond, whatever you call it.
It's fine. Here's where the problem will be. The next time the DEP comes and inspects, they're gonna ding you on it.
They're gonna ding us on it?
Did
Absolutely.
we not have Soto? I know I called him myself.
You didn't do anything.
We talked to him about getting the willows out of there and mowing
I
it.
did too.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause yeah, we talked.
Is he going to do it?
I thought it was already done.
Did we pay him for that? Because we pay him a couple times a year to take care of that and it doesn't get done.
He did around the plant and everything.
The other one, yeah, he did the other
That
one.
was what I was waiting for, but yeah.
Do you want to contact him again?
Well, I'll take a look at it.
Exactly where it's at. Where is it exactly at?
On the corner where you turn to go to the gun range,
Yeah, you can see the,
you know,
see
there's
the
that
cell
big
tower.
dike up there? It's behind that. That's at 1.116 acres that we originally had to buy from the club. That's where we ended up with the 6 O&Ms. Or I mean, 6 ERCs, I should say.
It's between the facility.
You probably think it's like a burp for the gun club.
That's what it looks like, yeah. He knows, he's very well aware
He's
of
been
where
in
it
there
is.
before.
I remember maybe a year ago, he couldn't get his machine in there because
Right.
the berm is too steep.
Yeah,
And we had all those millings. Remember they hauled
Yeah.
those millings in? They're back there. They could use those to build a berm.
oh,
Ramp.
The ramp to go in and out. That way he could just take his machine in and out. But that was been the complaint with him because we actually took our big crane was gonna lift the machine and set it in there, but his machine was just
do
too
you
big.
do you have a loader over there?
We do not have a loader.
Okay. I don't have my skid steer anymore either.
And the other question I had is all the empty lots in Orchid Cove, there's empty building lots, do those have meters on them? Each one of those buildings?
No, they have the width for a meter, but they don't.
There's
have
nothing there. Okay.
Just a valve. Thank you.
Thank
Can I
you.
ask you a question?
Appreciate it. Okay.
When I first moved here, we would get frequent boil water notices. When you fix the thing, we don't get it as much now, but we used to have a phone system that would send out a message. Do you still have that? in
We do
place?
still have that, but here's our dilemma with that. We can only send it out to the whole community.
Right.
And because we just had 10 homes, we did not want to send it out to everyone. So we just went door to door.
Right, and I agree with that, but my question was, if you still have that system, if the water pressure is down, could there not be that voicemail that goes out and says, there's a drop in water pressure, we're working on it, or whatever, so we know if there's nothing wrong with our system, it's not on your end?
We can do that.
Right, so
Well,
that's
we only do that for boil water.
Just for boil water?
Just because it will initiate a flurry of phone calls.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right, I got it.
But if you have low pressure, call us.
Okay.
We'll come right out there.
Mitch, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. That's what you do.
Kevin, I'd like to talk about the grants right now because it's about all the stuff we just talked about. If you want to do that, not later. All right, we had a couple things on the grants, and we're gonna put them in this section here because it's talking about all this kind of stuff we're talking about now. The SCADA grant did go through, it's $90,000. Took 3 years to get it through, but it's been approved and it's waiting for us to get the check. So that's a good thing. The larger one, the water line that's out there, if you knew the process on the SCADA system, they actually turned that grant down originally. We put it in there, and it was in there for probably about a year or so, and then they turned it down. They said the language wasn't right, a couple of things that they didn't like, and they actually turned the grant down and said it's over. And we asked them how that could be when we followed all their rules and things. And so we continued to fight it, and eventually they said we could send it back down the chain because it works its way up the chain for approval. We could put that grant back in, send it down, get the wording changed, and we did that with the SCADA system. And then when it came back up, it went right through and we got paid. All right, the wording change was as simple as we had storm water damage from the hurricane, and they said storm water was flood damage, and we were like, well, how can storm water be specifically flood damage? Because if it's flood damage, they won't pay the grant. If it's wind-driven rain or anything, they will. It was just changing 2 words in the grant, and it went back up, and they couldn't fight it anymore, and it went through. We've been there with the water line. The reason I tell you that is because the water line is a big grant. That's going to be probably with the wellheads over $1 million, well over $1 million. Could be, it's going to be a lot of money. Anyway, that grant, they've been fighting us really, really hard on that grant. We had a testing company come out and test the system after the hurricane, and we had leaks. And the testing company uses a certain test, and they said they had 7 leaks that they could pinpoint and give coordinates to, and then there's likely more. The federal government fought that hard and said, we'll pay for the 7-leak repair. And we said, yes, but it says there's more. If you fix 7 and there's more when you're done, it doesn't do us any good to fix the 7. All right, so they fought that language really hard from the testing company. We sent them a new summary from the testing company. They still didn't buy it. Recently, we've been able to push that hard enough that yesterday I had to send that grant back down for a wording change that it's the 7 leaks they're putting in what the testing company originally gave us. There's 7 leaks, but likely more because they can't hear the small leaks. They have to use an acoustic testing system for that type of pipe that we have. And if it's real noisy with big leaks, they can't hear the little leaks till you fix the big one. All right, so now the government said, okay, well, we get it. We're going to be able to do the language change, and that should go through. It's actually 3 years into it, and it looks like that the new well pipe and raising of the wellheads 5 feet to make them more storm-proof, rewiring all the boxes because the boxes are too low to the ground. They got wet that last flood we had out there. That'll all be raised. It'll really hurricane-proof everything from the wellheads through to the facility. So that one's looking really good. I don't count grants till we have the money in the hand, or well, actually till they move to the approved column when they have to pay them. The SCADA did move to the approved column for payment. We're hoping that in the not too distant future, that the well pipe and all the wellheads and everything will fall through go through that same process. So it's looking good. It's the first time we had really encouraging news.
Yeah, in a long time.
On the pipe in a long time.
Good work.
And then
Good job, you guys.
It's not there.
Getting close.
Getting close. That one's much closer. Our 250,000 gallon water tank, the new water tank for the port, is sitting on FEMA's desk waiting for approval. So that's a 75% grant.
Yep.
We paid 25% on that one. The rest of the work is all 100% grant. It includes engineering fees. The only thing we have to pay on the water line grant is 5% fee to our grant writer. That's really been really good and worked hard with us.
I think that bid opening is in like 3 weeks. The
September 16th.
yeah, the notice a month from today. Then the notice is ran. The invitation to bid is out there. Kevin and I reviewed and approved 4 or 5 different subsurface utility contractors that we wanted to make sure they were aware of our project because all of them are qualified.
So Neil's just saying it's out to bid right now. The water line and the raising the wellheads and all that, that's all out to bid. The engineering's done, we paid for that, that's all done. We're waiting approval. It's already out to bid, so we have contractors in line. Hopefully, if we can keep FEMA moving, we might be able to put that new line in before the next wet season. So before the end of May, this coming year, we hope to be able to do that. Kevin does a lot of work on these. He does as much or more than I do. So between the grant writer and Kevin and I, it's coming along.
Are any of our grants from the water plant to the homes?
No.
Nothing.
No, we are up to the facilities building. Because there wasn't any damage from the hurricane in the rest of the water system, that has to go under an infrastructure grant or something different. And we should be putting roads and some of that stuff into an infrastructure grant request.
Okay, because I thought I don't know where it went to. I haven't checked, I can't remember.
Bridge?
The pipe under the bridge?
Yeah.
And the asbestos that's supposedly still in the, from the plant.
Why do you use that word?
It's in there.
It's concrete.
Concrete. Yeah, the concrete, we're gonna replace that when we
talked
replace-
about that last meeting, replacing it from there.
Yeah, but
Or
when,
in Newport.
are we gonna do it when we do that line? The same people that do that line is gonna put it, I mean, are we gonna coordinate that, or?
We have
So
trying to
then-
push that process through as fast as we can. Didn't we start to look for,
Yes, we talked to the grant writer about possible grants to replace that water line coming out of the plant all the way up to the bridge,
past the bridge, all the way to the hotel?
to the hotel. Okay, so that, we're looking for an open grant that.
Okay, so we're starting.
Infrastructure grant.
Yep, and that was in our last meeting, and we're still pushing on it.
That's why I asked if there was any grants.
It's good that you brought that up.
We are, that's part of an infrastructure grant.
Okay.
With that, I think that takes us down to item number 6. And Zach, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to tee this one up.
Yeah, this is the public hearing on the revision to the administrative rules of procedure. This one is the sort of one of the 3 steps involved, and we're going away from the billing for utility through the ERC allocation process, and instead switching entirely to the rate billing, which you had already approved in your budget, and you were presented these rule changes several months ago. And a lot of these are just a lot of cleanup edits into the existing rules to remove all references to the fact that the ERCs are used to actually pay for utility service. And then after this approval, you will be, I guess, effective October 1. You will be billing with a base charge and rate based on your rate consultant's recommendation. So, and because it's a public hearing, we need to take additional public comment if there is any on this item, and then if you have discussion, we can go through it.
There is a separate resolution for the adoption of the amendment. This will be 2025-6. This has previously been reviewed and approved. I've received no comments at my office as a result of the notice, but it's essentially, it's a big deal, but it's a minor amendment that will help us move forward.
Any comments?
If not, is there a motion to authorize the chairman to execute resolution 2025-6, a resolution of the board of the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District adopting amendments to the district's rules of procedure?
I recommend that we accept resolution 2025-6.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7 today is further consideration of and the opinions associated with the ERC transfer application. We discussed this last month. We did ask, and the board unanimously voted to authorize the reimbursement to correct the error that appeared in the prior district manager's assessment role pertaining to the utility ERC O&M that was there. We reserve the right to come back today and to receive additional information concerning whether or not or if the ERC would also extend to a, I'll call it corresponding decrease in the general fund O&M assessments for that same parcel. The parcel is the commercial parcel that is separately depicted on the assessment roll. In addition to a cover memo and some information that was provided by the chairman pertaining to this, there was a legal opinion and a memo that was received yesterday, and I want to make sure that that's part of the record as well, and to verify if individual members of the board actually received or are aware of that legal opinion.
I apologize. I handed this out today. You have it with you. I did not realize that we were going to email in advance. So everyone received a physical copy today. I emailed it to Annalise while we were having the early portion of the meeting. I apologize for not emailing that earlier. I misunderstood an email from your manager, and I apologize. But you have it from.
Go ahead.
Okay, I can give a overview of the opinion. So the questions I was looking at were whether prior to the 2022 amendment to the rules of procedure, could O&M ERU assessments, as opposed to utility ERCs, be transferred between properties, and then after the 22 amendment, could they be transferred between properties? And our opinion, which I've stated but not in writing before, is that the answer is no. And what I've included here is the 2019, so the prior version of the rules of procedure, and I've quoted from these what the basis for this is. So in the prior rules of procedure, so before the 2022 amendment, there's a section that, some version of the section remains today, and it's section 4.34, which explains how to transfer utility ERCs between properties. And it's very clear in that description as to what that transfer applies to, is that it's utility capacity, and it's clearly talking about the utility ERCs. There is no similar language as to the O&M assessments, but there is a very helpful statement as to how O&M assessments were looked at, and that's in section 4.35 of the prior rules. And what it talks about is, it explains when the district approves an ERC transfer, a utility ERC transfer, what would happen to the O&Ms. And what it says is that the, let's see here, let me get to the quote. Whether a property utilizes all the utility capacity assigned to the property or not, it will continue to be subject to the same level of non-ad valorem assessments unless and until, and so there's two things it requires. A transfer of ERCs is made from one property to the other, but then it says, and the district's board of supervisors accepts an amended methodology reapportioning the duty to pay the assessments. And so the way I understand the 2019 rules, which are the prior to 2022 rules, is that in order to move the O&M assessment, there would need to have been a methodology amendment, which is what the rules state. So for the property that's in question here, it's unquestioned that the ERCs were transferred, the board approved it, everything was done correctly, and they were transferred, other than the ministerial errors that was corrected at the last meeting. I'm unaware of any assessment methodology amendment that then transferred the O&Ms from that property. But what I am aware of is that since that transfer, there were two assessment methodologies adopted by prior boards that address this parcel, the southeast commercial parcel. And so in that methodology, and perhaps in the upcoming methodology work, it could be taken into consideration, based on the way the rules are written, that that property doesn't have as many utility ERCs, and therefore maybe it shouldn't be assessed at the same level for the O&Ms, but it needs to be done through that process. So as I understood the question, it was basically, was it improper that the O&Ms were not reduced, removed, transferred? Our opinion is that no, it was not improper, because that second step did not take place. And it couldn't, and that second step is not an administrative step. It couldn't have happened any other way than coming back before the Board of Supervisors. So and then post 2022, I provided a link, but obviously it's on your website of the current rules. The current rules make it very clear in section 5.2.2F that the O&M ERU assessments are modified by the assessment methodology. So it's not something that gets transferred the way the ERC gets transferred. And that's our opinion. I provided you a copy of the 2019 rules. Your current rules are on your website, and I'm available for questions.
So then, you're saying that the ERC's transferred, the O&Ms did not?
Yes.
Well, my argument to that is that's the first time that has happened, because ERCs are not supposed to be removed from property, and they have been. And when they have been, the O&Ms have gone with them. So past performance tells me that it's ambiguous. The whole thing is ambiguous. So I say that we transfer them, because if we've done it for everyone else, why is it one particular piece of property it wasn't done?
I guess what I would say to that is that I don't think these rules are very ambiguous. I also don't see evidence of us doing it in other places. You did allocate O&M assessments to parcel 13, and it has, and in the same breath, you didn't sell them. And I know we're gonna have a conversation about the ERCs more specifically, but here's what is the case in that real estate transfer. You didn't transfer your ERCs, you held your ERCs back in that real estate transaction. And so whether
How many ERCs were originally on that property? 300. 300.
So if there's three, right, but my point is, we didn't.
How many O&Ms were paid? How many O&Ms transferred when you changed it to 109? Where did those O&Ms go? Where'd those O&Ms go?
They didn't, the prior board, or whichever board approved the current assessment methodology, assessed O&M allocations to parcel 13 in that process, which is the only process by which O&Ms get allocated. And so I'm just suggesting that it's not correct to think of it like they transfer, because they don't transfer. That's my opinion. I understand that you don't agree with my opinion, and that's okay. My other understanding is you all retain separate counsel to give you an opinion about this issue. In the task list at the last meeting, I asked if you wanted me to reach out to separate counsel. I was told no, that the chairman would handle that. And so I don't know if the other counsel has viewed this. I'm not aware, but you have my opinion in writing. You provide it to the other counsel, and they can provide their opinion. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't see clear examples of these O&Ms transferring all over the place. What I see is O&Ms being allocated by the assessment methodology, and that's what the rules say. So why would we think that there's a different way to do this? And that's my opinion.
So what do we need to get it done then?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What do we need to get it done then? We can make a motion
To do what?
to move the O&Ms.
You would need to amend the assessment methodology. I mean, this is basically because you're changing the assessments themselves. And you already moved earlier in this meeting to levy the assessments. It's sort of like the dot conversation. If you said, if we just randomly decided to remove, outside of the process, if we decided to remove the amount that you're allocating to the docs, we would need to do that through the assessment methodology process. You don't have an assessment methodology before you to do this. However, it was discussed heavily in the beginning portion of the meeting that you will be initiating a new assessment methodology approach, I guess, as I understand it, immediately, starting after this meeting. And it could be done through that process if that was desired by the board and determined to be appropriate given the beneficial analysis.
Well, I disagree, but anybody else have anything to say about that? I disagree. I see that it has been done in the past, and apparently without following the rules, is what you're telling me.
What's an example of it being done in the past?
We took ERCs off the hotel property, right?
This is not ERCs. This is the O&M assessment.
I know. So tell me how many O&Ms are on the North Hotel now?
Do we have a copy of the current assessment methodology?
There's one per room, it's 86.
North.
And who's paying it?
Oh, okay, I think that's what it was.
So we still have O&Ms on the North Hotel? I don't see them here on my paperwork. I see nothing.
That parcel was owned by the Board of County Commissioners. They're not part of the current methodology.
Okay, so then in the last methodology, what I'm hearing is it was determined not to assess O&Ms on that parcel, not because anything transferred, but because that is owned by a government, and we typically do not tax governments except when they're engaging in commercial operations. So there's no transfer there, but it could be evaluated in your upcoming assessment.
So you would say then that the ERCs still stay on that parcel, it's just the government has an exemption to not pay that unless they're doing commercial.
I guess that's one way to think of it. The ERUs, I think it's more like saying you can't assess the ERU against them because they're
It can be
exempt.
there, but because they're
It could
exempt,
be there,
we're not
it's sort of
assessing.
like a ghost capacity.
We're not assessing it at this time because they're exempt.
Yes. But I'm not aware of examples of transfer. What I'm aware of is you do, and we frequently have, and we've had many discussions about changing the way you assess the gun club, for example, changed, and that's perhaps a good way to look at this. The O&Ms that are now on the gun club, they didn't come from somewhere else and go onto the gun club. We reallocated the whole system based off of the benefit analysis that you received from your consultant, and based on their determination of how the benefits should be allocated. But there's not, the board didn't process a transfer application to give the gun club more O&M ERUs. They were just allocated more ERUs through the public hearing process on the assessment methodology. So I think it's my opinion that that is the process by which these can be moved. This property can certainly be looked at, but it has to be looked at the way every other property is looked at. And
So-
the ERC,
I have a question about the ERCs that were on the Lindsay Case property that were 300, which are now 109. So what methodology did that come from?
well, and I guess I want to be clear, methodology is O&Ms, the ERCs are not methodology. They are transferred by way.
So the O&Ms, if it's a 1-to-1, the O&Ms on Lindsay Case's property is 300?
It's not a 1-to-1 though.
What is, okay.
I mean, there's not a separate, it's determined by the assessment methodology. I think and this is a critical distinction to keep this clear. The utility ERCs are these, what you can think of closer to a transferable fungible item that can be moved to the properties, and that's in your rules, and it's been in your rules for a very long time. The O&Ms are a assessment that you as the board, based on expert advice, allocate to the properties based on an analysis of beneficial use. And maybe, and one of the things that can go into that analysis is, for example, if a property doesn't have access to ERCs, then maybe it doesn't have the same beneficial use as other properties. That seems to be why these numbers are close, but it's not direct to they don't move together. They're not, and the second tranche is not transferable. Property owners can't just get together and trade these back and forth. And that's clear in these, not just the recent rules, in the old rules where it states that the property owners who don't agree with this have a right to come to the board and ask for the assessment methodology to be modified. But what happens, the physical act that the board takes is modifying the assessment methodology.
To move.
To move them, and moving, I guess moving them is maybe a helpful mental shortcut, but really what you're doing is you're reallocating the entire district every time you do this. Because so when we look at the ERCs, the number of ERCs don't change. And so as we transfer them around, there's always the same amount. But when you look at the O&Ms, this is a little bit of a different process. You're basically allocating the administrative burden of the district across all the properties based on the way you see the benefits. And this is the conversation you're having about the docks. This is the conversation that you're having about parcel 13, the county. All of these things go into this. And so that's
So on the gun club, last year we changed the O&Ms,
yes.
but we didn't change the ERCs.
They did not buy new ERCs, they did not transfer new ERCs, but you all determined that their O&M allocation was not supportable based on your expert opinion. And but again,
So a vacant piece of property that has little to no benefits has 6 O&Ms?
well, and I guess, and this came up a little bit in the doc conversation, but I almost addressed it then, but I'll address it now. Typically, when we're looking at these benefit analyses, and the same way when we're looking at other concepts like zoning, we're really looking at the potential on the property more so than we're looking at what is actually happening right now. If you are going item by item and asking yourself, you'd have to do a lot of different analyses. For example, you have different square footage homes in here. They all technically are using slightly different things. You have people that maybe only one person lives in the home and there's only one car. Some people have 4 people living in the home and 4 cars. Instead of getting that granular, what your system is based on and what the courts have upheld is more of a averaging system where we figure out these are the types of uses that can take place on this property. Because as to the southeast commercial parcel, what is true is that is a very intensely zoned piece of commercial property that could have fairly intense commercial uses on it. It doesn't have those uses on it, but it can. And so similarly, when we look at these boat docks, we're asking questions like, could it have a commercial operation? Some of them can. They don't, but if you're going to make a distinction between commercial potential, you're going to be allocating to them a percentage that is based on a potential that they may not actually be doing. We're not asking things like, are they running a charter fishing? We're saying, can they run a charter fishing? And then we're not asking, what's the difference between a tour boat versus a charter fisher number of cars? We're doing this based on large averages. So
How much commercial can you do on a property that has 2 ERCs on it?
I guess I need to understand, and maybe this is a question.
Somebody has 2 ERCs.
And,
You can't build a restaurant on there?
And what I said at the very beginning of this, is that in the assessment methodology process, the number of ERCs available, it makes sense to me that that would be considered in the O&M allocation as to that parcel. But, and so I guess just, and I know.
So right now, O&Ms, I believe if we look at our changes, right, last year we accepted 4 per, vacant parcels are 4 per acre.
For the first vacant, all vacant, is that?
Yeah. How did we put that?
I think you were doing, is it 4 per on the residentially zoned as opposed to?
4 per O&Ms, 4 per acre on vacant property. I think, did we put that in or did that not? That went through, I believe, last year, right? You put that into.
I believe that it did, but the current allocation is 7. And it's because my understanding is that that parcel does not have 2 buildable acres on it. There's a conservation easement or there's a jurisdictional wetland or something. So it was adjusted as part of that 2023.
So it wasn't just
If I'm not talking just that parcel, I'm talking all the vacant property we have. We went to 4.
I think Mr. Kish's report indicated that the underlying or base level methodology was 4 per acre.
You didn't do that in parcel 13.
Well, that's
Right.
special.
Huh?
It's under a
Well, I think that what happened, I think what happened on parcel 13 is it was looked at based on the development potential specifically, and this is another reason why it's important to look at, to go into the assessment methodology. I guess, let me be very clear about, our opinion is not that you shouldn't do something about this. Our opinion is the way that this is dealt with is through the assessment methodology process. It's not done through private transactions. And so if it's felt that because of the remaining amount of ERCs on that property do not support 7 O&M unit allocations, then that should be considered by the person preparing the assessment methodology so that this parcel can be dealt with in that terms, because that's what the rules have said before and say now.
Okay, so
But when you transfer ERCs, that gives the property that you transferred the ERCs to more potential. So why wouldn't the O&Ms, certain portion of those O&Ms go with it? Because the potential is changed. You have increased their potential by giving them more ERCs. Why wouldn't the O&Ms go with it? Because that's not what your rules.
Because the rules don't say that. It says that the Board of Supervisors accepts an amended methodology, reapportioning the duty to pay the assessments.
So when we went 4 per acre last year, right, we should have taken all the vacant parcels and looked at that methodology against the whole bay.
That makes sense to me. I mean, what I would say is since the ERC transfer in question, this board has, not you, but this board, the Board of Supervisors, has done 2 assessment methodologies. In either of those, this could have been addressed. And it can be addressed in this upcoming one.
Right. Okay. All right. So I was just saying we applied before to this parcel we're talking about, but we didn't go on and get the other. We reapplied to the other one.
And I think that's a discussion for this potential.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like what happened here is they applied before, they subtracted 1 piece of wetlands,
Right.
And maybe they should have looked at the ERCs available, and then as to the parcel 13, maybe that needs to be looked at similarly because of the no longer availability of ERCs.
So then in our methodology that we're going to redo, right, or create a methodology, we never really had one like was in that handout we talked about, right? If we go through that more granular methodology, right, we could add that in there that we could compare that to the number of ERCs or something.
I think it makes sense that the ERCs would be a factor because the ERC, on the one hand, every parcel is accessible by your roads. On the other hand, the level of intensity with which you can develop a parcel certainly depends on the number of ERCs you're holding. So I think that it's not I don't think the end of the day answer would be linear, but I think it would be related.
So we could put that into that methodology when we put together to take every parcel.
Yes.
Okay. So that same methodology will be taken in for the boat docks?
Yes.
The same one.
Well, again, my major observation here is that you have at least 3 to 4 very different reasons as to why this should be looked at. One is the boat docks. Generally, one is the boat docks from a commercial standpoint. One is parcel 13, and another one is this, the southeast commercial parcel.
Right.
And I guess also the southwest commercial parcel because it was the one that was transferred, although you own it. So that's going to have to be taken into account because you're not going to get money taxing yourself.
And the fourth one would be a partial credit for multifamily tracts that have separate water retention or water management
Right,
systems.
that's on there,
So that's the notes.
that's a storm,
Yeah, that's a good point.
roads and stormwater.
For that cost center only,
We gotta lump some of these together because you don't want that matrix to get too big. Right? The ones we've seen, I've seen 2 of them from other CIDs, they're like 4 or 5 categories. So they don't get into like 10, 12.
Yeah, there's an administrative burden that comes with the level of intricacy that you go to. But I think, and that's what my thought on bringing whoever's going to do this here in September is that we would go through each one of these items and you would express your concerns on the front end as opposed, because I think what's happened in the past is the consultants have just gone and looked at it, but so they just looked at it and then come back to you. But you have a very clear understanding of things that do not make sense to you as a board. And so I think you're going to get a much better result if you bring them in here and say, here are the 4 or 5 things that do not make sense to us. We need to understand what your take is on this. And here's some of our reasoning. So this conversation around the dock is prime for that discussion. Here's how you're seeing it. Here's how you're seeing it. Here's how the community is seeing it. And then he can come back with, I've actually listened to what you said. Here's what I think the answer is. And if that coming back time frame will be way before the January mark, well, now you'll have time to do the next step, which is what we need to react to what they come back with. Because sometimes when they come back and it's July, you don't have a lot of time to react to what they came back with. So I think, government is never a fast mover, but I think that you've distilled a series of very clear points here, and I think it's addressable.
It's been a learning curve for everyone to take where we're at prior and the changes that are being made now, to get it all incorporated into.
And for what it's worth, the shift to the, what I'll call rate billing, the utility, simplifies your world significantly. Because the import of the ERCs changes, because it's no longer the sole method by which you're being billed for the water service. It's pretty hard to argue with a base fee and how much gallon charges you have. And that will always present as more fair, I believe, in the end of the day. So I think you've made, and you and prior boards have made a series of steps to get to a simpler system. And in my view, you're very close to that simpler system. I think by the October 1, you'll be operating in a totally different environment. And in that time frame, you can start doing this last piece, which is a deeper dive on the assessment methodology.
Where's the board going to go on this now?
What do you mean? What do we
What
get?
do we do? We're talking about this all morning, or what are we going to do?
Well, no, I thought it's going to be coming up, and probably for the next year, the O&Ms aren't going to be cleared up till next year, by the looks of it.
What I put on the task list, or really towards the very beginning of the meeting, was that going to talk to, if that report was prepared by your current consultant, Mr. Wire, which I believe it was, we need to double check that, then I think we need to have Mr. Wire ideally physically here in September to go over the items that you want him to address as he prepares an updated assessment. Yeah, and that was my first item on the task list. And we can come back to the specific assignments. When we're on the agenda, we get to the task list at the end. So, I personally, or not personally, my professional opinion is that the way to fix this is the assessment methodology, and to do a one property amendment now is unadvisable because you have a budget that you just approved that includes this. You have you've levied assessments already that include this, and it needs to be taken in the process, which is, in my view, what was told to the dock owners as well.
The only comment that I have to make about this is, when I read an email from a board member to the management that says, how are we going to manipulate this situation about ERCs and tax on Mr. McNamee's property? How are we going to manipulate that to our advantage? Brings us to a whole different area. Because that's not telling me that this was done under any fair circumstances. This was, how are we going to screw him? And that's the elephant in the room.
Understood.
Let's move on.
Well, to that point, I would think that if the board goes through a comprehensive update to your methodology, I think that you could make a finding that a partial credit retroactively was in order at the time the most recent application for transfer was submitted.
Well, I believe there was some credit, right?
It was a credit on ERC side.
ERCs were refunded because those were improper.
That was just an administrative error. They never changed anything.
But I think
Right.
the board would be finding that a second error occurred. You'll have to go through that methodology again, and I think that a retroactive credit is a policy decision that you could make if you go through that process.
Let's move on.
Well, unless you tell me otherwise, then and it is Mr. Wire's firm, Steve. I
Right.
confirm that engaged the methodology that seems more straightforward.
Why didn't we see a book like that? We had Mr. Boyer's, that book is amazing.
I haven't.
What motion? Do you need a motion now, Neil? Do you need a motion now, Neil?
I think it would be appropriate to direct me to engage Mr. Wire's firm for a comprehensive update in specifically those four areas that we addressed, and frankly the possibility of a retroactive credit if the board makes a finding that one's in order.
I make that motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That takes us down to the financials. I'm just going to give you kind of a quick overview here. Some of this I've alluded to in previous budget discussions. The third quarter financials are attached and behind the next tab that are there. As of June the 30th, the board had $5,495,000 in cash or current assets. In particular, we had just done a billing on the utility side, so you'll see that there was $64,000 in receivables, but that was early in the utility billing cycle. But $5.4 million in cash on hand at the end of June. There were $53,000 in payables that were outstanding at the end of the month depicted on the balance sheet. On the next page, on the statement of revenues and expenses, there were some non-ad valorem assessments that were received in June. Again, my impression is those may have come about as a result of tax certificate sale. There was $27,000 that were received. Total non-ad valorem assessments year to date through 3 quarters, a little over 95, actually 95.6 0.5% of total revenues for the year, $854,319. Those are net of fees. So really, you've gotten all of your revenue at this point. Interest earnings continue to track over budget for the month of June, $13,040 in interest. Total year to date, 116, almost 117,000. Probably finish the year somewhere around 175,000 or $25,000 over budget. I flagged a couple of areas because I've had this conversation with the chairman. Year to date, some areas that are under budget that were the subject of our discussion yesterday. Repair and maintenance grounds within our landscape operation and maintenance procedure. And we had a budget of 25,000. We've only spent 6,900. The same is true on the water management and storm drainage side. We had a $5,000 budget. We've only spent 500. We had some miscellaneous expenses that were not budgeted pertaining to the hurricane claim that is outstanding with our consultant, Berquist. The other one was we had put a plug number in our budget to do some repair and maintenance of sidewalks and roadway. Thus far, through 3 quarters, we haven't spent any of that, so we're $10,000 under budget there. The same is true for mosquito supplemental spraying, although the board discussed and reserved the right to authorize some work at your meeting last month, but through June, we were $15,000 under budget there. And then in the 4th quarter, we will be processing that transfer to the capital reserve that I alluded to earlier. And with that, I'll just stop and see if there are any other questions pertaining to the June financials. And if not, you can entertain a motion to accept.
Right, motion?
Make the motion, we accept.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Zach, that takes us down to the attorney's report. I had just flagged any further discussion or action pertaining to
One thing
the possible
here,
litigation.
before we get too far, it just came to mind. We were talking last meeting, I believe it was, one of the action items was to get to the county and look into being able to get to their vendors and their pricing.
We are eligible, and I shared that with the chairman. There is an annual contract with, I think, 3 different contractors who have bid a multi-year milling and repaving and sidewalk sort of plan. I didn't bring it with me today, but we've done that. We have to share it with you.
Okay, so we're working on that for next year.
It's commodity.
Do we have to add money to the budget to be able to do some of that, or are we going to?
There's
get
a
that
small
in place?
amount of money in there for next year. I shared this with the chairman. It is, if you had I think it's a standard, lane width of 10 feet per lane. The engineer had given me kind of a plug number for what it would cost to mill and resurface tied to that. I would have to go back and look. I don't want to give you a number off the top of my head.
All right.
There is a contract. I've got the bid tab summary and all of the different commodities that are part of that contract. I'll be happy to share that with you.
All right, if we would decide, we have to talk to John and see about some type of infrastructure grant, get it moving. But we have to have a number. We can't start a grant without a proposal or a number. So we'd have to know what we want to do for roads, how much money we want to spend. Guess it's a guesstimate. We have to have something like that to be able to plug a number into a grant.
I do that every year at Pelican Marsh. We have the same civil engineer do a little assessment of pavement condition, and he makes a recommendation as to what roads need to be milled and resurfaced. And we, on average, we spend $150,000 to $200,000 a year at Pelican Marsh doing that type of thing. But it's
Okay,
the
so
cost to do a little pavement condition survey is negligible, probably less than $5,000.
our engineer will do that.
He does it for me every year, same engineer. Here I use Pelican Marsh.
Do we have to approve that?
No, I mean, that's the consensus of the board to have me, have him do a survey of pavement condition and give us his recommendation as to the roads that are in the worst shape. That's what we do, and then we go down the list. We update it every year because sometimes different segments will deteriorate faster.
All right, so to kick off the grant, we'd have to have an idea of what we're looking at spending, how much roads we're gonna do.
I can give you a pretty good start on that, probably $5,000 to $7,000 with pictures and recommendations as to the types of pavement failure that make this the #1 rated road, and then some estimates as to what it will cost per lane mile to mill them and resurface them on a piggyback contract with the county.
How much money over the years have we paid all Montez to do these same types of things? We have nothing.
Well, what do you think? Do it
Yeah.
now and we can kick off the grant?
Good.
All right, I make a motion that we go ahead and have the engineer do his assessment
Yeah, because Newport's getting pretty rough.
for the roads. You need it more specific than that?
No, I do it every year. Dr. Marshall took it on.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right, as soon as we get a number, Kevin, then we gotta try to, in the meantime, talk to John and see if we can open up an infrastructure grant or something. But we gotta have some fairly close numbers and stick in there.
You do it. The PrepMac litigation is moving forward to trial. Trial is presumably going to be happening in September. We've received no communication from counsel to indicate that they have any other intentions other than trying the case. So we'll keep you updated by email as those dates happen and as the hearings happen. But it's likely that trial will probably happen almost immediately after the next meeting. So there will be one more time when we get to talk about it. But there's not much to talk about in the sense that we did attempt to try to come to some sort of resolution. We were unable to do so. And so if they're not willing to drop their case, even though this is a challenge over a methodology you're not using, then we go to trial. So we will, that's that piece. Other questions on the PrepMac litigation?
All our attorney fees and everything, because we made that offer, do they qualify for reimbursement if we go to trial?
Potentially from the date of the expiration of the offer.
Right.
So
all this trial prep and everything will be going towards that?
that definitely, trial prep is definitely after the expiration of the offer.
What do you think the odds of getting your legal fees back are?
I don't, the question that you're really asking is what are the odds of prevailing at trial? We have to prevail at trial. And so my understanding is that there is a good odds of prevailing at trial based on frankly, on the level of discovery done to date. Because it's not clear to me what the opposing side is going to be able to put on in evidence here. But I don't want to go too deep into the trial strategy. But the reality of the situation is, unlike some of the other litigation we've discussed, you are the defendant. So choosing to not participate is choosing to lose. So it's not like we have a huge option here. It was not in the agenda, but this came up in between the last meetings. Calvin and Calvin Marine Construction reached out. Supervisor Baird was working on this. They would like to use the Southwest commercial parcel to stage. I went back and looked at the South Florida easement, and until they send us the notice that they're going to begin, we can actually sub-license out the property for additional contractors. I talked to South Florida. They don't intend to send us the notice until November. So we have prepared for your review a license agreement for Calvin and Calvin to pay $5,000 to use the Southwest commercial parcel for basically through the end of September on essentially the same terms you agreed to with South Florida, which is to say that they have insurance coverage, they're paying the license fee, they can only use the property on the same hours as South Florida, 7 to 6, Monday through Sunday.
Okay, the only problem I have with this is say that the seawall's damaged, who's going to take responsibility for
That
that?
is in this agreement. They are solely responsible for all maintenance and repair and restoration of the license area. So they have full responsibility here for that, and they are required to be insured. They also has an inspection requirement in here. So this is the agreement. You've used this agreement before. Other contractors, we used a version of this with South Florida because they wanted an easement, not a license. But the level of protection that you typically have in these deals is in this agreement. They've approved this form, so if you approve it, then they can go.
See, my understanding is that this is for a intended project at the Stella Morris condominiums.
Stella Maris, north, south, Greenwich. That must be.
I don't recall.
I'm not, that might push for Supervisor Beard, but yeah, you've been paid 50 by South Florida, 5 by Calvin and Calvin, and signed this. And I don't recall if there was one before this.
We have another
But
5.
there was.
So that's $60,000 on the southwest parcel.
So we made a return on investment of $60,000 on the property so far this year.
That's my understanding.
12.
And based on the conversations with the contractor, it seems that this parcel is really the only way that they can do this work. I mean, they were pretty keen to get their hands on this. And so, and if you remember in the South Florida easement, the way we structured that, when they finish the work, that easement terminates. So if they finish the work early, which they're incentivized to do, then you can resume letting marine contractors use this site. But we do have to know that during the window when South Florida's doing the work, only they will be able to use the property. But it seems to me, after the conversation with the marine contractors team, that they need this site to do this work. And so I expect that as your community continues to age and seawalls get replaced, this is going to be fairly commonplace. Any questions on this agreement?
Or a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the agreement for the marine contract.
Make the motion to authorize and sign. Authorize and sign.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Anything else, Doug? I have other things, but I was thinking we could just go through the task list, and then they would come up as we go through the task list, if that's comfortable for the board. So on the last, I guess, 2 pages of your book is the task list that Neil and I have been going back and forth on and maintaining. And I want to just catch and point out the items that are basically being done for either for today or coming up. So the notice in your utility bills for the rate increase was completed. That was in August. The resolution for the rule change was completed. Upcoming in September, number 8, is the RFP for community security assessment. That's something that your manager is handling. It's in progress. The 9 through 12 all had to do with the Prep Mac lawsuit, and were really completed by the time we had that second meeting back in July. The live aboard memo is number 13. I did send a draft to you. I was hoping to get some feedback before I finalized it, but I have a copy of the drafts here.
Because I just checked this. I'm having trouble with my Apple. I'm not an Apple guy.
Okay, I'm sorry. These are.
I didn't see anything.
Okay, yeah, I emailed twice about it. This was I just wanted to make sure I got the questions right that you were looking for before I finalized it. Essentially, as I understood the question, it was, what is a live aboard vessel and can it be a residence? And then what kind of regulations are there in Collier County? Because you had provided some land development regulations from Sarasota County. Yeah. And basically the answer to this question is that they can be residences, as in they can be primary residences. And all the Collier regulations are mainly focused on marine cleanup issues more so than anything else. But if there was a more specific thing we were looking for, I wanted to make sure I addressed it before I finalized it.
Would we be more interested in how the boat slip is designated more than what the heck is in it?
Well, this is just, I was reacting to the question I was handed, but you tell me what you want us to address and I will address it.
Because if you, what does he have, 116
Well,
designated?
Again, it's what the potential of that thing is. So this is a liveaboard. So if it's a liveaboard space, that's what this is.
Right, we don't have to
I just
determine how it's propelled or anything else.
Well, no, they can't be.
We don't have to make a determination.
No.
All we're worried about is what the designation is that they can put in there.
Right. I see what you mean. Yeah, but I wanted to know if we were within all state guidelines and whatnot, which is what we are. Because I mean, in other places,
For the member liveaboards, yesterday, after quite a bit of time with the county, I came up with the document that gave 116 liveaboards. It's a Corps Engineers document.
Right.
Permit.
Right. Yeah, because there's other places that allow 15% is the max for liveaboards, depending on where it is.
Right. And
I didn't know if that was a state thing or a county thing, and it's evidently a county thing.
yeah, it's a county thing, and it might come down to the local jurisdiction setting those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an overlay for the state, but only on their submerged land. And this marina is not, as I understand it, sitting on some submerged land.
Right, but
Okay.
I'll have that, I have that document, I'll try to get it to share.
So,
It's a core engineer document that goes back to 2018.
Okay, well, I just was
where they
curious.
address the living boards. I spoke with the county planners about that. To try to change that right now would be pretty tough. However, they would address the effects of that.
so in which case it's out, so I'll final this on this round. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't some question I was missing.
Did you ask about whether or not those docks are supposed to be plumbed for sanitation or pump out both? Because I thought their permit called for those to have to be hard pipe.
That would correspond to some other things I found in the state where they did anything that was over 72 hours would have to be hard pipe. But I don't find that on their, I have to get their permits, the rest of them and see. I did not see it on their permit. But the one thing we may be able to do that's I'm very interested in is that if we don't change, if nothing changes with the number of liveaboards, it could change to a clean harbor. That's something they're really cooked up to. And I have a meeting probably next week with the environmental people that would be very interested in that. All right, so I can let you know when that comes, but if it became a clean harbor, all their gray water has to be captured. Would it work if it stayed 116 liveaboards and they cleaned up?
Yeah. I'm not trying to eliminate it, I just want to make sure we're up to snuff, that's all.
But that is one of the effects that they would be happy to look at.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'll final this. The 14 was to bring Russ Wire to today's meeting. I think we kind of changed this in flow. I believe Supervisor Kish spoke to him before today's meeting, and then now you all voted to bring him to the next meeting anyway, so we'll mark that as complete. 15 is the memo that I provided earlier that discussed. I'm not sure on the status of 16 as far as talking to co-counsel. I did connect Chairman McNamee to Leo Salvatore's office. I don't know what the status of this one. The concept plans for the potential community center, it was scheduled for September, but your manager already completed this. I don't know if they've been started.
We have some preliminary, I shared them last night with the chairman. We'll refine them and then we'll share those with the board next month.
Okay, so that's on track.
We're a little ahead of schedule, but.
The bid documents for the raw water main is done. The bid opens according to this September 13. Provide the field manager with the web account access is done. That came up earlier in the meeting. The cover letter for the utility increase is done. The assessment role reimbursement for Southeast Commercial is done. The district, the RFQ for legal services is scheduled for September. It's in progress, so that will be on the September agenda. The insurance renewal application is done, and then the license agreement for Calvin and Calvin is done. You just approved that. And then in today's meeting, I took note of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional items that I'll go over with you. Now, the first one, and you've already acted on it, is beginning the update assessment methodology process. You voted to have your manager provide that information to Mr. Wire, and so I put that in your manager's column, and I believe that hopefully we'll have some kind of update in September. I think it's the plan to have it on the September meeting, even if just to discuss about it. Number 26, it was mentioned at the beginning to send a utility bill insert regarding the backflow device to include a picture and provide information to your residents as to where to turn off the water. And I also noted that you wanted to put this on the website. I put that down for you as well, Neil. 27, this probably should have been on the task list before, but I was going through emails and making sure I was catching things, and I have, and Lisa, I've reached out to Lisa Blackledge to schedule a meeting to go over the easement use agreements with her, and as soon as she gives me dates, I will give them to you. I may already have them, and my goal is to try to get that before the next meeting, so I've added that on the task list. The 28 is you moved to do this, which was getting a cost of roads estimate from your engineer. So I put that down as 28. And then 29, Supervisor Kish had given me at the last meeting the documents on your participation in the Oshapi Fire District. And so my plan for the September meeting is to report back on this. And as I understand the question, it's, is there a way for you to leave the Oshapi Fire District?
Yeah, no, I wanted to know if there's a way for us to become part of the Greater Naples Fire District.
Yeah, leave Oshapi, join Greater Naples. The short answer is yes, but the how is complicated. It's essentially a legislative enactment, but I'll just do a quick summary on how it goes. There's many concerns with Oshapi in the sense that it is not really a district. It's something that it's a dependent district of the county, and then they contract the entire service provision to Greater Naples. So you see Greater Naples trucks here. That's who provides your service, but you're not Greater Naples voters. And you're also not in a district, which means your millage rate doesn't look like the Greater Naples millage rate. Your millage rate is significantly higher than the Greater Naples millage rate.
Almost 4 times.
If I understand it correctly, it's the highest possible millage that can be charged.
Yes.
And this is the same boat that Everglades and the rest of the incorporated area is in east of you. And so there was an attempt. So initially, when I do have some background on this, but I'll put it in the memo. But initially, when the county contract with Greater to provide service, Greater agreed to go to the legislature to absorb the district. And so that this would have just happened. It would have happened by now. Greater Naples, it's hard to understand what happened here. I think if you ask Greater Naples, the answer is that the legislature did not approve this. I think if you ask me, they didn't really try hard to make this get approved because they were running the numbers, and this is a really expensive area to provide service to.
Greater Naples wanted their cake and they wanted to eat it too, right? They wanted to keep the millage different. If they bring us in, it has to be under the same millage as everyone else.
Correct.
And they didn't want to agree to that. So they actually dropped the ball because they wanted to bring us in, but keep us at the current millage rate because money.
I have no edits to that story. That's my understanding.
And they're raising the millage rate on the rest of Greater Naples right now, and then they're putting a fire station, 10 miles down the road from us?
Yeah.
Which is part of Greater Naples, but we're not gonna be part of Greater Naples.
Right. And so I think that there's definitely discussion, there are already discussions certainly on the Everglades side about this conversation, but it is a hard question when you look at the basically the number of people versus the amount of equipment and this sort of thing as far as the cost to provide fire service.
Well, we're 50% we would be 50% of the area for Greater Naples.
Oh.
It would double their area from 750 to 1,500 square miles.
Which has a significant cost.
There's one thing that happened though in those negotiations, because I was talking with the county manager.
Kenny Patterson.
Yeah, so we had a conversation and they said that so Greater Naples stuck their feet in the sand and they weren't going to move, right, to get that adopted. So Neil got a hold of North Naples.
North Collier, yes.
Right, and asked them if they'd be interested, and they were very interested in taking us on. All right, so when Greater Naples caught wind that he had talked to North Naples, then they folded and kept it the way it was.
This is definitely very much an active situation. North started managing Immokalee, which is another way to look at the puzzle because that brought North way closer to this area than they ever were before.
They did?
They managed the Immokalee Fire District.
Immokalee was the same as us, so they lowered the rate and everything?
I don't know if they've lowered the rate, but they took over the administration of it, and I assume that eventually that will be incorporated into that. I think the idea was they wanted to administer it, get it functioning like the rest of their district before they just, because I think the thought because they have to be responsible to their other taxpayers. I think the thought was, if we just take Immokalee and have to force everybody else's rates up, that's not fair to our existing payers, but if we start managing it, bring the cost into control, and then absorb it, that's my understanding.
There's 12,000 homes permitted out there too.
Oh, I mean, you've got
It's
a lot of
huge.
development out there. So is there anything else that's what I understood as the task list from today's meeting adjustments, but obviously supervisor comments, if you have more stuff you want to add to the task list, I'll write it down.
Yeah, the first thing I wanted is, where are we at with the default action on lot 13?
With the, sorry, the what?
Lot 13, default action.
Well, there's no default. So they didn't pay the ERC amounts, and so they have no ability to acquire the ERCs without coming to you to negotiate the purchase of the ERCs. Is essentially the status of that.
Is it coming up at the next meeting, how much we're gonna charge? Because we're changing.
I think, that's the question. You talked extensively at the last meeting about how to get back to what the ERC price is. Based on the way the board negotiated the first price for these was, I would call it purely a transactional negotiation, in the sense that it was really based off of what the board determined the property to be worth. Is how they came to their number, more so than looking at the system itself. So I don't know if you want to have a task item about the ERC piece. I think that needs to involve the engineer.
Well, yeah, I asked Wire.
Discuss that today, so ERC price.
No, well, I asked Wire about that. He said that we will be able to implement an impact fee, like a hookup fee, impact fee, whatever we want, and we collect that, not the county. So that should be possible.
I've added that to the possible scope of Russ's engagement.
But that doesn't, I think, doesn't address the cost of ERC piece. But maybe you don't. I mean, I did receive reach out from Mr. Truxton.
No, this will address it.
Okay.
So we have to substantiate the fee that we had for ERC, we gotta have a price on those. We have to-
Right, that's gonna come up in the next meeting. Yeah.
But thing it is, you're not getting paid for those
I know.
ERCs over, you know, that has been left on the table for 8 years, and we just keep pushing it off.
But we're changing the way we collect. So unless we have meters in the ground, just like these, like we were talking about over here, we can't collect on the meters that are not in the ground on Orchid Cove. Right? We were getting paid years, we talked about that, right? We were collecting tax payments based on ERCs. Those are gonna be gone.
But those are county owned, those lots right now, so you won't get the tax anyway.
What
And
the
they're not gonna be gone
years
either.
in Orchid Cove, they're counting? I thought, well, yeah, but they're paying tax, somebody's paying taxes on us. I thought we were still collecting that. We were still collecting assessments, no?
No, they're county owned.
So we're
Once
collecting
the county-
nothing.
Once the county acquired them through the certificate process, they're no longer obligated to pay taxes
Exempt,
or
just like the
assessments.
hotel property.
Oh, well, I didn't know these were. I didn't know they
County
were.
owned.
Wow, and this and the North Hotel. Well, so,
That's why we've been trying to just acquire them from the county.
just for everybody's understanding, this building, I asked about this building, the parking lot, the pool and everything here, and the lot on Case Drive and Selmaris.
Common areas.
They're common areas. We collect zero. This is again my point. A boat slip, we charge 1. All this, we charge 0.
Well, you have to understand though that all this goes to the individual condo owners.
I know. It's still, well, we got a vacant land over there that's doing nothing. I was wondering about acquiring that at 41 in Stella Maris South. It's vacant land. We get nothing for that. And that's a common area that's doing nothing. That's your common area. I don't know which HOA
Well,
owns
the
it.
funny part about that is we transferred the ERCs off of those property, and we sold to another place. But you know what? We didn't keep charging O&Ms on the same property that those were originally on.
Well, that's,
You know, there's another example of a spot that the O&Ms went right along with them.
that property's been sitting there as long as I've been here. And it's paid, it's a common area, and it's paid nothing.
So I just want to make sure I understand what you want to happen here. September meeting.
I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there, just so that everybody has understandings for.
Russ did tell us that typically common areas or amenity type structures like this are not part of an assessment methodology. They don't get assessed if they're standalone or a common
Right,
area.
but that's just vacant land over there.
Yeah.
That was originally good.
The update I got, the update I got from Mr. Truxton was that they're still trying to find a potential buyer. They don't have one at the moment for the parcel 13. And the question started with parcel 13.
Oh, okay.
And then the question moved to what do we do about ERC pricing? But my understanding from counsel for Lindsay Case is that while they're very much trying to find someone to buy that from them, they don't have someone lined up to buy it from them. Which indicates to me that they don't plan to develop it themselves, but that's a guess.
He never did.
You
So,
got,
Ross, I was going to address you on
explain something, yeah. You
the
got
recreational
what you're talking about on Cave Drive and Stella South?
It's a what? Recreational parcel?
We call it the recreational parcel, but that parcel is called M2, and it goes all the way up through 3 different buildings all the way to Stella North.
Right.
It's the lawn. You're not assessed because you have a big lawn. I mean,
I thought there was a building that was scheduled to be built there
No.
at one time.
no, never been a building scheduled
Or a
there.
center, or wasn't there supposed to be a pool and a clubhouse there or something?
That's a potential use of the property, but it's never been in any plans.
But I'm just
That's what you're taxed on potential. You're taxed on potential, remember?
yeah, see, that's, I mean, there's so many
Well, I mean, we
legalese.
would be having to come to you to discuss that, I'm sure, at some
Yeah, I
point.
assume
But
this-
again, it's not anything on the table.
I assume this parcel was evaluated in the assessment methodology, and so if we want to flag this one as one of the additional ones to take a look at with Russ's.
Well, we
update.
keep talking about a community center and whatnot, and I always think that place might be good for something like that too. And then it wouldn't cost anything, you know what I mean? It's there. But that's another
Yeah, it's
discussion. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I can't speak for all the for unit owners in terms of,
Right.
what they want there.
Yeah, so, well, I wouldn't,
If I may for 2 seconds, it is part of that particular thing. It is lawn. Taxes are paid on that, just like they're paid on the rest of it, all on the one thing. We pay it to group. We don't own our own docks. The master owns the docks. But, to say there's a potential there, I'm told that there is not a potential because of water service. I'm told you cannot build other condos because it would exceed there's all kinds of theories, but there is no plan, we could also say there might be a Ferris wheel there, purchase someday. But you're talking about taxing on something that that would require all kinds of approvals, county approval, and a 100% vote of our unit owners.
yeah, I get it. Okay.
I
just want to
want to briefly respond to that comment. It just depends on who owns it. I think if you want to look at this, you need to look at this. If you want to look at community-owned parcels, it strikes me that this parcel was looked at in the assessment methodology and determined to not have an O&M. That may not be true, so let's look at it and get to the answer. It does not matter who owns it. It matters that you apply even benefit analysis.
And
We'd have to look at, we also then have to look at all the houses that had 2 lots and took them down to 1.
They're one tax parcel, yeah, so.
Where did those O&Ms go?
Like one tax
So
parcel.
when they combine
They just
it,
disappeared too, didn't they?
so when they take their 2 lots, they make them one at the county, they drop the taxes on the second lot.
Yes,
Right,
and
then 10 years later, they turn around and say, okay, well, we're gonna sell it and let somebody build a house there, which there's one going on right now. They're building on a second lot, okay? So when they build that, then they waived all their taxes and their ERC fees and everything for 10 years, and now do they have to buy that ERC back? Because
did the ERC itself get removed from the parcel, in your understanding?
we're talking about you can't do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I mean, I think
Well, the O&M did. The O&M went with it.
The O&M, presumably in the assessment
There again,
methodology.
you can talk about this until tomorrow afternoon. It's not going to
They're not
change
being charged
anything.
with O&M either.
Because it's just about who owns what. It has nothing to do with rules.
So when the ERC went, they went down to 0. And now if they want to resell 10 years later, they come back and say, okay, we're not going to sell that, somebody's going to build a house on it.
I
Right,
think maybe
so
the
then-
question to the consultant is, if they build across the lot line such that they couldn't just sell the lot off, maybe that's different than if
No,
they
they
just.
didn't build across.
I know, I'm saying that should be maybe different than just holding a lot next to you, which I think is a distinct
The
distinction.
county says if they want to combine them, they can.
The county for tax purposes, so the property appraiser will let people do lot combines, but these are not, but for example, growth management department, county, not tax appraiser, does not recognize tax combines as a lot merge. And so this is just for tax purposes. This is a question that can be asked in the process.
So we got to look at those too.
So you can add this on there as, it basically calls lots that have the potential for 2. So it's not, they didn't build across the lot line, they just have it sitting next to you. Because again, I think it's important to put on record that it does not matter.
Because if they're not
parcel.
paying, if they're not going to pay it when they combine it, they're not paying anything. So then,
Then they should pay one on the, if they have left a lot, if they have eliminated the easements, then again, I think that's something that needs.
So under our current rules and procedures, those double lots, is there a provision in there that allow us to just say those ERCs disappeared?
Yes, no, ERCs have to be transferred. So
so then
We never-
double lot,
we never
even if
did
the
I
county.
don't see how, I guess, I appreciate that question, but I don't understand the, like, we will allocate the O and Ms, and you've now identified 6 or 7 things that we look through, and we'll do that. I don't know, I don't have a list in front of me right now of all of these double lots to know if they have ERCs that there's 5.
Does the county have the power to probably combine
Maybe
those
there's only
lots
5 now.
to not collect the taxes, to decide not to collect the
No,
taxes?
we tell the county, you, the district, tell the county how you're not more.
Well, we never removed that one. I've been here for what, 8 years now?
So if you didn't
And there
remove
was
the
never-
ERCs,
we
then you
never
didn't
removed-
remove the
So
ERCs.
these people should be paying under second.
That would be
We
my
have
understanding.
never removed any from anywhere under the provisions. Just, Cal said, oh, they don't exist there anymore? That's how it worked.
Are there any other supervisor comments?
We're
we need to-
still an attorney, aren't we?
I think we've morphed over into action items and supervisor.
Okay, well, this is an action item. We had talked about previously the errant lab reports that caused us problems. Where are we at with that?
On the wells.
This is the testing reports up in the Northwest. My understanding is all the reports have been completed and there were not determined to be material issues, and all of that has been
I
submitted.
think he's saying, should we have recourse against the
Yes.
former lab company that
Told us that they had problems, which cost us
Us a lot of money.
Are we talking about the phase 1 company that worked for Lindsay Case? Or?
we're talking about the prior company that was engaged by the prior board and manager to do water quality monitoring.
They worked for us. They worked for us. We paid them to give us a report. They gave us a bogus report, and that's why MI Homes backed out, based on that report.
Okay. Would you like, I assume you want to send a demand letter to them, and I can prepare that for review at the next
It's
meeting.
a third-party testing company that
Yeah,
comes
I-
out and tests those
Can
wells.
you send me the?
I don't know who that vendor would have been, if any of you have any knowledge as to.
Mitch has all that information.
Okay,
So I just I need their base contract so that I can review and see if there's any limitations on liability.
I'll contact Mitch and I'll find out who the vendor was, and then we'll look back and see if there was a contract or a proposal that was authorized.
Okay, so I'm adding this as number 30, and you'll get me the records, and then if I get the records, I'll be able to prepare a demand letter.
Okay, this is an attorney-manager type question. I've heard all these rumors and saw some on next door, and I'd like to see the paperwork that shows about the deal that was made between Orchid Cove and the CID years ago about paying for this electric, getting to use the clubhouse. I've not ever seen any paperwork. I've heard that it's been asked for before, but
I would like to,
I'd like to at least see it,
I can
see
get
what it's
you,
about.
I have a copy of the paper. All right, but,
Could you send that to me as well?
yes, yeah.
So was that
I would like to,
appointed by the courts, or was that just a agreement between the CID and
I'd
Orchid
like to
Cove?
better understand what it
I
is.
think it was an agreement, but what I,
It was just an agreement. I was here. I remember that.
So it wasn't through a legal process? Oh.
what I'd like to do is collect more information so that we can address that completely. I'd like to call, working with
So
Steve
that
and
former
Orchid Cove.
board had the authority to give that more money away forever.
I'd like to work with
5 years
Steve and
ago.
Orchid Cove, talk to LCEC, and see what we can find on the data to those cell phone posts and why they cost what they cost and what they're charging us now and that kind of thing. I'd like to collect all the information and then be able to present it back to the board.
Okay, and you have some of the information you turned around.
I do have some.
You can send me, we can send us both.
Not enough. Not enough yet. We have to get some things from LCEC.
Okay.
So Neil, on that, can you give me a copy of one of our bills that we pay LCEC?
Yeah, I already made that.
Yeah, you got that. And then I need that number we talked about, okay? Can we get back to you with that?
Sure.
So we collect
Sure.
that information? All right.
Talking about LCE, this is, we still on comments? Yeah. This isn't really a request. Well, Marco Island, I was reading about Marco Island, they're having a big deficit. They want to increase property taxes 34%. And there's something you can do when you're a government entity or whatever. You can put a finance charge on the LCEC bills and have it paid to the community district. But they charge 3%.
I don't think that extends to CDDs or.
We're a government entity, aren't we?
We're not.
I'm not saying we're going to do this. I'm just throwing it.
Municipality.
Yeah, we're not a city. But if the question is, can a CED charge a franchise fee?
It's a finance fee. They call it a finance fee.
Okay.
And LCEC collects it and then pays it to the municipality.
The franchise fees are, a lot of these are the residual of long time ago agreements that were pre-stated. It used to be the case that cities could do a lot more on the way they handled the electric provision, and then the electric companies had the statutes really tighten that down. So I'm not sure, I don't know off the top of my head. So can CDD charge franchise fee?
If we get desperate, but I don't think we'll ever be that desperate.
I'll go to Senate.
They got, Marco's getting $1.5 million out of it.
They have about, isn't it something like,
Costs everybody $6.
yeah, they have a lot of residents.
Yeah, they got it.
Any other
18,000.
supervisor requests?
Yes, I have one on, want to talk about the median.
Well, let's go right into what I want to talk about, too, landscaping, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay, well, we'll back up just a little bit on landscaping. I got a request from Working Code about some shrubs were ran over by a car apparently, and they drove off. Soto cut those shrubs down and said that they would regrow within a year, so that's where we're at with that. They also asked about putting some mulch or something down on Meridian here at Union Road. I think that would go into going back to what we were actually going to do for the whole community. We actually got a master plan from landscaping architect, and we never did anything with it, so I think we ought to morph that into where we're going with the landscaping.
Okay, can we address the bushes first?
Sure.
That was a car accident, and Neil, we had talked a long time ago about that, our accident, trying to get a copy of the accident report or whatever, because we had some damages to some electrical equipment.
That was two different accidents.
That's the same one that went into that corner.
No, these are two different ones.
Different ones?
Yeah, yeah, the one that went into the corner, I don't know about that, but we had Soto repair the landscaping, electrics, and all that. This is a newer accident, that somebody ran into the bushes and almost hit the fencing too. You can see the marks going to the bushes, and there's no car, no evidence of who did it. Yeah, we don't know.
All right, I thought it was the same accident,
No,
because we were going
different
to go after the insurance with people. I don't know if we did that, I don't know what the carrier was. We had Soto come and fix that. We probably didn't pursue it for the lack of being very much money.
He would have coordinated that, Kevin. So I can ask Kevin and see if, if it grows to the level where, it was, worth chasing.
All right, I thought it was the same one.
Just real quick, James, it comes landscaping. Steve Gunter, Code. Do we know who owns that landscaping along on the north side of 41? I thought the CID was responsible for the center median. I thought maybe the state owns that landscaping, or are you guys responsible for the landscaping on the north side of 41 as well, that borders the big house?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't think you guys were.
We're not maintaining it.
Well, this is where this is, so why would you guys, why is Soto doing anything with it? It's not our property to maintain, is my question.
It might be the state's part of it right away.
Right.
It's either state or local.
I don't know, we never figured that
Well,
out.
how I
That came
found
up,
out about it is they called me because they said they had to mow and the bushes were, smashed off. They just mowed just like a little section right there and keep it down. And I said, well, what do you suggest? He said, well, just cut them down because they'll grow right back. Yeah, clean it up so you can mow.
Yeah, I just wondered, I It's just a follow it, because I think that's state property. That was all my question.
So back to Meridian,
Yes.
we've talked about this, about,
Every year we get a 3% increase in price and we keep that up.
right?
Have you ever really approached the county?
We even had meetings, but one of them got canceled. Neil was in on it. What do we talk about with the?
Talking about the right of way,
Yeah.
the median in the
Yeah.
41 right of way? Yeah, when that was granted, there was a specific provision written into the right of way permit that the county would not be responsible, that it would default to the district.
So the only way, if you wanted them to take it back, you'd have to return it all. I think they said it'd be okay to leave the trees, but everything else would have to go back to sod.
That's my understanding.
So
It had to
when
be
we
by,
talked about this, we got a price from soda, what it would cost to do that. And then that's just as far as it got.
Well, if you shut off the irrigation there, it won't take long.
No, not the dry season. I can't believe that the county can say, with all the landscaping they do towards Naples, and all the county roads that are in Naples with Meridians that they're adding stuff to all the time. They did Davis Boulevard way down in my town now. They redid that, put all the vegetation in down by, is it not Santa Barbara? Yeah, maybe.
There's only 500 registered voters here.
There's only what?
500 registered voters here.
Yeah, I know. But I can't believe that they can do all those meridians on all those county roads and they can't do something out here. So I don't buy the fact when they just simply say, well, your agreement says you gotta
they do
return.
what they want to do.
I know, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease too. I think we gotta, if we want something, you gotta go after it.
What would you like to do here?
Can you have another meeting with it?
Neil, could we schedule another meeting and see what?
You know, this started about a year and a half ago. We actually had the commissioner come here, and he brought the deputy county manager with him
Right.
Here?
on
Okay.
that day. And they went back and they researched it, and they, at that time, said and provided us with a copy of the right-of-way permit that said that if you people want to build it, then you're going to be responsible to maintain it.
But I think the question is, will they change their mind and maintain it? I personally, we've discussed this before at these meetings, that the county is really opposed to adding additional maintenance obligations on landscaping at the current inhabitant for the past couple of years.
Yeah, for what it's worth, my client at Pelican Marsh and Tiburon have tried repeatedly to get the county to landscape Vanderbilt Beach Drive and Airport Road. At the time, they are 6-lane in the next 2 years. And they've said no repeatedly. They don't have any money for new installations. And there are 3,000 homes there, so I'll say there are 3,000 registered Republicans there, and it hadn't made a bit of difference there either. Their alternative would be to create a taxing district. And I've suggested that in the past, that every commissioner have his own taxing district for discretionary road resurfacing or his own medians that have been landscaped. I mean, the commissioner prior to LaCastro was Donna Fiala, and she spent a fortune landscaping US 41 from one end of East Naples all the way up to the other end to where her district ended. And they spend millions of dollars maintaining it every year. And that would be the fairest thing to do, would be to petition the commission to say, create 5 taxing districts. In fact, when I was there, we did that. There were 5 taxing districts for each commissioner for road-related projects or improvements, and then let everybody pay everything in the district that they live in. So that when, they do your median, but then you would also pay your share of whatever, is in LaCastro's district up, going up the trail until you run into Commissioner Kowal's district. That would be the fairest way to do that.
Fiala definitely.
Everybody in the county is paying something based off of the commission district that they live in and the benefits they receive. And where I live in North Naples, then that means we get taxed more to finish Vanderbilt Beach Road and finish Airport Road because the county has no plans on doing it. I wouldn't mind talking, you know, I might go back and, I'm really well acquainted with Commissioner Hall, who happens to be my commissioner, and because we, you know, manage Pelican Bay and Pelican Marsh and Tiburon, he's very, very responsive to us to see if we maybe could find a friend who would launch that idea. And even though we're kind of at the end of the world out here, then you would be in a taxing district to where everybody in you know, District 2 or whatever you're in out here would be contributing to the benefits that you see every day when you're, you know, driving through.
Well, technically, we're paying for their landscaping right now because we pay county tax. And we don't have any out here, so I guess if you did the districts, we'd probably pay the same thing and get some landscaping.
I don't know if they're using, you know, general or unincorporated area taxes, or whether they're making that work with sales tax and gas tax. And I'll make a note to speak to the deputy manager, or maybe the budget director about that. That might be a better approach.
Because essentially the other option is you just write them a letter and say, please do this. And I
Well, we
think the
did that.
response to
When we had a public petition letter that was sent, and Lou, the commissioner said he'd come out here, and he came out here, and he, you know, gave us his spiel, you know, for
I see.
20, 30 minutes.
And it was not done.
Nothing got accomplished.
Got it.
Any other supervisor requests? Any final public comments before I ask the chairman to sign a bunch of resolutions? Your next meeting is September the 19th here at 9:30. And with that, you can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
You're right.